We are live. So, Cody, I begin with one question, sir. Where were you born?
Balch Springs, Texas. Yeah.
So, that you said is, before we recorded, outside of Mesquite, right?
Yeah, it's like just south of Mesquite. I think it was supposed to get absorbed at some point in the 80s, but they just left it. Probably a mistake.
You think it was a mistake?
It's got to be. Nobody knows Balch Springs. I would at least like to be identifiable, you know?
Yeah, but like I've had so many people come on this pod. Not that there's been too many, but like so many people that have come from like small towns.
Yeah.
300 people, 3,000 people, like really, really tiny places all over this country. And it's kind of cool because it's always the most interesting stories come from these small towns.
Yeah.
Of like just stuff about Americana that we know nothing about unless you were there.
Right.
Was your town like that?
I don't think so. I feel like it has like you could call it a small town. You'd be right because it is small. But it's touching Dallas city limits, you know what I mean?
So it's kind of, it's a suburb technically, not really a small town, I guess, even though there's not a lot of people there. It's so close to the big city.
Exactly.
All right. That
it's
makes sense.
Like the way I put it weird, like it kind of branches off the further you get from Dallas. Like Dallas is obviously city. The further you get east, it gets a little bit more country. Balch Springs and then Sigaville right there. It's like a lot of people, it seems like there's no identity. Like it's like they're reaching for country, but it's still too close to the city. You know what I mean?
And in your like living there, do you think more people want to be country or more people want to be city there? Like what's kind of like, where are they leaning towards?
I think it's getting a little bit more city. You know what I mean? They built a new bridge. They wasted a bunch of money in Mesquite recently to make 635 more accessible, I guess. Yeah, but it was actually for bikers. I don't even think it helps traffic at all.
Well, what I've been reading, though, is like a lot of Texas is going through these humongous growth spurts.
Yeah.
So maybe Mesquite's just one of those towns that's getting bigger and bigger because a lot of people want to move there.
It's got to be. That'd be cool. It'd be cool if there was more attractions and stuff to bring people to the town. There's always been the rodeo. The rodeo is real big there.
Okay.
So I guess that would point towards country, I guess.
I guess it would, but like I've been to the rodeo at Fort Worth with my kids a couple of times.
Yeah.
You don't feel all that country. Like it's
Yeah.
pretty big city, and they just got kind of like
They make it
the
mainstream.
rodeo in there, you know. But
Yeah.
Fort Worth doesn't feel country.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Bringing it back to comedy, one comic put it was Matt McElhone in a podcast. He said that Fort Worth is like very conservative or whatever.
Yeah.
Dallas is like a good mix, liberal and conservative, and then Denton is like very liberal or whatever, the way that you would put it. You came out to Denton a couple weeks ago. That's not the best example of the scene, that open mic, but
I mean, I would say Denton
city.
felt very liberal to me in the sense that it was a college town, and most college towns kind of like are liberal because it's just young minds still trying to figure it out. And
yeah.
Conservative is, very stringent in its values and the way it is. Liberal is, you're like, hey, fuck around, find out what you like and don't like about the world.
Yeah.
That's cool. But like that vibe was awesome over there because you need that vibe in order to have creativity.
Yeah.
And I got that vibe when I went down to Austin for the first time. I was like, oh man, people are creating here. Like the town kind of like speaks to you in a way. Like Austin, when you're just walking around, you're like, yeah, this feels like creativity is just about to explode.
This feels more open. I got you.
I don't know. Like, do you get that feeling in Austin?
I definitely get different vibes. I would feel weird trying to describe it, but for sure. I think it made me notice how different Dallas is. Because, like, I've always lived in Texas and stuff. I lived in Abilene for a few years.
Which is like Texas.
Yeah. They call it West Texas, but I feel like it's pretty central. But either way, it's out in the middle of nowhere, and it's grown a lot, too. But my friends from there would be like, yeah, Dallas has everybody there is stuck up and stuff like that. And I didn't see it. And then moving back to Dallas, I was like, I totally get it. It's like very city. Everything is business oriented, it seems.
Do you know what's a term I never heard until I moved here?
What's that?
When they spoke about, let's say, Dallas or the Park Cities or like this kind of area, they always call it like the hoity-toity part of town.
You've never heard hoity-toity before?
Fuck no. Nobody says that shit in LA.
I wish I never heard it.
Nobody says hoity-toity. You just look at them going like, what year are you from?
Somebody asked me once, damn, I used to work at an elevator company, and we all went to lunch together, and I got the soup and salad because it was the cheapest thing, and I'm cheap. And somebody was like, are you uppity? And I was like, you think I'm fancy because I got soup and a sandwich? Like, I'm poor. I'm broke, dude. Like, I got the cheapest lunch special.
Yeah, like those are things that you just don't hear a lot on the West Coast, I think.
That's funny.
It's just like one of those regional things. Like, it's still our language, it's English, but it's so kind of like this area will say things like that, whereas where I come from, we never say shit like that.
That makes me feel way worse about here that we have that. We own that phrase.
See, the thing about that, it kind of annoys me, phrases like that, because it's self-censorship. It's like telling yourself that, oh, there's a better part of town that I don't belong. It's because there's like this condescending tone to it. Nobody ever says like hoity-toity in a good light.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Or because you can say like, oh, yeah, dude, like the upper class lives there. That kind of gives you an idea that you can work towards that.
Yeah, yeah.
Or you can be there. And like Dallas has a ton of money that people just don't know anything about.
Right.
Because people don't flaunt it here. It's weird. Like, there's people that are just billionaires walking around with just, khaki shorts on. You'd never know.
Yeah.
But it's like oil money from
I feel
God
like
knows
Austin
when.
is like that a lot too. Austin has all these everybody's wearing flip-flops, so you can't tell who's rich or who's homeless.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's one of those things. Austin's weird though. Like, I like that they said, isn't that the motto of Austin? Keep Austin weird.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that official? I wish it was.
It's got to be, right? I don't know if they're feuding with Portland. I've never been further north than Tennessee, so I don't know what's going on anywhere else, but I feel like Austin's got weird lockdown.
I think I'm missing one. Hawaii is the only state I haven't been to of the 50.
Damn, really? That's cool.
Yeah. A couple of cross-country like road trips and just traveling for work and odd jobs here and there. Like, I just got to see the country a lot.
Dang.
Haven't been to Hawaii.
Yeah.
That's the only place. But,
man.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying about Portland.
Mm.
It's a cool place, or at least it used to be.
Did you check out any comedy there?
No. I didn't. When I went to Portland, this was before even like Instagram was a thing. Yeah. So not knowing about comedy scenes was okay.
Yeah.
Because you're in LA, you're all over the place. Like the Comedy Store, you've got the Ha-Ha, you've got the Laugh Factory. It's just like a never ending. The Icebox in Pasadena, there's like so many clubs that are in LA.
Yeah.
So when I was in Portland, it was a work related thing, but I got to see the city. It was fun, but I didn't get to see comedy over there. I wish I would have though. I wonder what it would have been like.
I haven't checked out many clubs anywhere else. I was in like Nashville last year for the first time, and we wanted to go to check out Zanies and everything, but we planned it last minute. We just took off, and shows were sold out. Big J was there that weekend.
Nice. I got to see Big J Skankfest a couple of weeks ago.
I saw him. I forgot I've seen him until that weekend. It made me remember that he opened for, it was like Mayhem Fest in like 2010 or 2009 or something. I went to a metal concert and
Jay opened.
Yeah. It was
he's a big
cool.
Metalhead. ICP was there actually the last day of Skankfest.
Oh, really?
Part of ICP.
Oh, I saw that. I did see that.
It was fun, man. It was like, it was what it exactly says on the label. It was a Skankfest.
Yeah, you
fucking awesome.
You went and I forgot that you were there. I saw the pictures of you there and everything.
Yeah. So I was an EP on a project that Darian Irwin, the comedian, was doing. He did the bike ride from Austin to Vegas.
Was wanting to ask you about that.
1,100 miles. He almost made it. Just that podcast should be coming out this weekend or next week, and it's like a journey series that we're doing. So we did before he went on the bike ride, and then I met up with him in Vegas after the bike ride to do a post-interview kind of a thing. And that's going to be put together into a single podcast to kind of like outline the journey of how he got there and then what happened at the end.
Perfect.
So that was cool, but the best part was that they were able to kind of hook me up with like an artist pass. So I was in the green rooms. I was everywhere. I was hanging out with everyone, and shit, dude, that was like one of the coolest experiences ever. So shout out to Darian Irwin, shout out to Justin from the Creek in the Cave, Rebecca, and last but never least, Mike Eaton, dude. That guy fucking rocks. He is the most awesome dude ever.
I briefly met Darian. I never met Mike Eaton, but I know, I think he started in Dallas. I've seen a lot of those guys around. I was living in Austin the past year, so I saw a lot of those guys around there.
So I was going to ask you about that. How was living in Austin? And kind of what got you to Austin?
Just my wife, her job. I was in school, so me and her have actually, this is our 5th year anniversary is going to be in December, and every year that we've been married, we've moved, like had a 1-year lease and moved. Like we started in Dallas and, we started living in San Marcos, and we've alternated Dallas and Austin every year for one reason or another. and last year it was just her job.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got made remote, and we moved back and everything to Dallas. But now we're doing that thing again, looking for other jobs and stuff, and everything's kind of up in the air again. So,
so you might be going back to Austin?
There's a possibility. We're both looking at stuff everywhere, you know.
So you've done comedy there. You've done comedy in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a preference?
Yeah, but so I did build an opinion. I've only been doing comedy 2.5 years now. The first year I was in Dallas, and then the second year, almost year by year or whatever, the second year I was in Austin. And Austin's a great scene. Everybody talks about the opportunities and stuff like that. I disagree with all that. I think wherever you get the most stage time, and I feel like it was easier for me to get stage time in Dallas. I had a better routine. The places weren't as saturated yet, but I was in Austin for I think the big catch-22 is I was in Austin for that year before the big clubs opened up, like Cap City and Rogan's Club and Sunset Strip. Yeah. So it was a lot of comics for bar mics, you know what I mean? Just like outdoor mics, super hard to get on the list, just harder to get a good routine going compared to Dallas when I was starting here, because it's a bigger bottom, you know what I mean? A ton of open micers and stuff like that. So it was easier coming up here and knowing everybody, and then having to get adjusted that second year was a little bit tougher. So I think for open micing, it's good to stay in your scene wherever you're at or whatever. If you have connections where you can go down to Austin, go to New York or wherever, LA, and you have some connections that can get you on some shows where you have some traction, that's probably great. But being at the bottom, seeing everything from the...
So how many years into comedy are you now?
2.5.
Okay. So when you say the bottom, it makes it's a fair assessment, because you're just kind of like in the beginning stages of comedy.
Exactly. I have nobody to ask any favors for. I have nothing to offer at that point. You know what I mean?
And that's what like most people really don't understand about any of the creative arts. You are at the bottom until you're not. It takes a very, very long time to actually like accelerate to a level where you feel kind of comfortable. I actually was watching Tom Segura talking to Matt Rife on his podcast, Two Bears.
Yeah.
And they were literally talking about like how everybody's progression into kind of like getting there is very different. And Tom brought up the example of running into Ali Wong, and they were kind of both skyrocketing at the same time, but she skyrocketed to a completely different level very, very quickly. And then he was like, yeah, my skyrocket is a little different than yours. And it's like, everybody has a different progression, but no matter how you look at it, everybody has to put in the time.
Yeah.
It takes many, many years before you can even get to that launching pad.
Yeah. And I've definitely got that mindset. I started what I consider late. I started right before I turned 30. I started when I was 29. So, I mean, you'd prefer to be 10 years in when you're 29 or whatever, but that's not the case for a lot of people, I guess. It's nothing to really complain about. But, yeah, getting started late, that definitely holds me up. But I've got the perspective of this is going to be a long game, you know.
Oh, hell, don't sweat it, bro. I started a podcast at 37. Come on, man. With no entertainment
You've had some good guests on
whatsoever.
So far.
Yeah, I've been very lucky and extremely grateful to the men and women that have come on this podcast so far, because all of them, I think, are really, really amazing at what they do. Yeah. And every single one of them is very different in the years in of their career. Like, you know, Raj Sharma compared to you or Sri Raj or Mike Eaton. Yeah. Everybody's kind of like at a different pace and has found different audiences. And it's like, it's so much fun to actually kind of be a small part of this.
Yeah.
It's cool. So, yeah, very grateful for that. But, I mean, don't worry, man. You've got 8 years on me. You know what I mean? Yeah. I just barely started to kind of like have fun with this idea of doing something like this.
It is, you said it too, like everybody's got their own race, and I try to not fall in that trap of making comparisons, of even being like, oh, I started late. Like, late for who? Like, I started when I was going to
ask you, like, late compared to who? Because you're not trying to be anyone except for Cody.
What it feels like to me is it feels like I've known I wanted to do this for a long time, and it feels like I was putting it off. So now it's like, man, did I screw up by waiting too late to dip my toe in the water, you know what I mean? And now it's such a thing of, even if you know that it's a 10-year thing, even if you have that in your head already, after you start comedy, you get more and more why it's like that, why people say that, you know what I mean?
So I got a question for you. Mm-hmm. Do you think that, and this ties to it, is the universe comprised of order or chaos?
Well, both. Is that cheating? I mean,
sort of, but you can explain. I mean, it's not cheating. It's just it's not a question that has a direct answer. Like
order from chaos. Yeah.
Order. So from chaos we get order.
Yeah, like everything requires combustion, like engines and childbirth and everything. Like you got to bust in a lady to make anything. You got to combust to make anything. You know what I mean?
Okay. So to that effect, do you also believe in fate? That everything has a reason for occurring. Even the worst of things.
In the moment, no.
And in the long term?
No, I mean just like in the moment right now, I feel like no.
You don't think it's fate? Because the reason I say that is I have been shown by the world, by life itself, that nothing happens by chance. And those have always been at my worst times.
I got you.
Where like everything is just has already gone to hell.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you're out of that, you're like, oh, okay. I had to go through that to get to this.
Oh, I totally get what you're saying. Yeah.
Why I'm saying that is you wouldn't have begun doing comedy until it was the right time for you to begin to do comedy.
For sure.
You know, the same way I wouldn't have begun doing this until it was the right time. I lived in LA for 30 years. I didn't start this until I moved to Dallas.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're in the epicenter of entertainment, and then you didn't go to Austin where it's happening now. You came to Dallas and you decided to do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there has to be a reason for it.
Yeah, I got you.
So I'm a firm believer in that. It's not like a God thing or anything. I just feel like there's a reason for everything to happen. Nothing happens by chance, in my opinion.
Right.
So starting when you were 29 probably was meant to be.
No, and there's things that point to that where I know that that's the case. I know that what you're saying is true. But then moments of irritation come up where you're like, oh, maybe this is happening because I started late. Maybe I feel this way because I started late. It's just a BS excuse that I have loaded, you know what I mean? So that when I have a show and I'm like, I'm not as comfortable about this because I haven't been writing. The reason I haven't been writing is because I started too late. It's just a whole bunch of bullshit.
And none of it is true because at the end of the day, you're just like, oh, yeah, that's right. I've only been doing it for 2.5 years.
Just like making like comparisons and stuff like that. I knew starting like this is a one-man race. Nobody else is in my lane. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, nobody's supposed to be you.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to be anybody else. Now, that doesn't mean that in the beginning you don't use your favorite comedians as a springboard to kind of like get an idea of how you may want to be on stage.
Yeah, you never want to do that too much. I hope I'm not. Yeah.
You're not, but the thing is like it's okay. From imitation comes something new.
Right.
It's finding that fine line of becoming an imitator versus learning from it and finding your own voice. Mm-hmm. And again, it's time.
Yeah.
But dude, I see comedians 8, 10, 12, 15 years into it that are just garbage.
Yeah.
And it's always the ones that have a bravado of them, like, oh, look at me. And you're like, no, dude, no, you suck.
Yeah.
Like, you really are bad at what you do.
Yeah, there's a lot of like not great, even Netflix specials out there. So knowing that is like, it kind of sucks when you think about it, but it kind of gives you a peace of mind too. Like, just because somebody got something over you or it doesn't seem like your path is working out, that might not be what you're aiming for either. You know what I mean? That might not be your audience that they're.
Yeah. And then there's like Shane Gillis's new special that cracks up my wife. And she usually doesn't laugh at stand-up comedy, but she saw the Trump routine and she was crying laughing.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, yeah, I've been telling you about Shane for years, but you don't care. She doesn't. Like, it's not, English is not her first language. This is not her country of birth. So a lot of what is spoken in comedy is very, very American, right? Like there's a lot of it that has to do with growing up here and the culture and everything. Mm-hmm. For her, it just doesn't translate. What does translate is like the Russian comedians that do like stuff in Russian. There's like a humongous Russian comedy scene out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it doesn't come here very often, nor do we ever get it on our radar because it's done just straight Russian. But like for those audiences, and especially like Eastern Europe and stuff, they're killers, dude. They're murderers to them.
Like
they sell out arenas and shit, like on the regular.
Damn.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that we only have a one-sided view of like a country like Russia, but no, they have a thriving comedy scene that's been going on for like a couple of decades now.
Yeah.
And people love that shit. Like, it's cool to them. It's awesome. And if I wish I knew the language, because I feel like it's a lot of funny that exists there.
Probably, if it's as hard as the stereotypical thing that you got in your mind or whatever as an American of what Russian life is. Like, are all their jokes about like fighting bears? I'm sure it's not, but they probably got some intense stuff going on over there. You know?
It's not all about fighting bears, and a lot of it has to do with, again, culturally relevant things like the TV shows they grew up with, and it does have a lot to do with the bad shit that they all went through like, you know, when the Soviet Union was being broken apart, there was many years of people just living in very poor conditions until a new regime kind of figured shit out.
Gotcha.
Which is normal. It happens when you have an entire government fail.
Yeah.
Like, God forbid we ever have to deal with anything like that, but it's a huge deal, you know, like many countries had to figure it out for the first time.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, I get it. But I mean, there's so much of it that's like, again, they're cartoons that they grew up on, and like female and male dynamics, marriages. Fuck, they do roast battles and shit over there, dude. And they're really good at it. Like, you can tell, because I don't understand it, but if you look at the audience and the way they're laughing, you can tell if it's true laughter versus kind of like an audience laugh.
Yeah, you can get a vibe of the room.
Yeah. So I get her kind of perspective, but yeah, to go back to you, dude, there's so many bad Netflix specials too. You know what I mean? Like, one of my favorite ones till today is Ball Hog, Tom Segura. Like, it's fucking hilarious, dude. I rewatch it from time to time. It's that good.
Did you I'm sure you did his new one. I forget the name of it, but his newest special.
Damn it. I saw it twice.
Did you?
Loved it.
I wanted to rewatch it.
I can't remember the fucking name to save my life right now. The only thing I can remember right now is goddamn Razzle Dazzle, Bert Kreischer's latest special. It lives in my head forever, dude. That name is just so hilarious.
I'm not a big Bert Kreischer fan. I feel like he's like polarizing. I enjoy a lot of comedy, so I can still go watch a show. And I did go watch a show with my buddy who's a big Bert Kreischer fan, and it was awesome. It was a great show. His openers were good. But yeah, that's his Razzle Dazzle and everything. I saw that at Fort Worth, Dickies Arena.
Yeah, okay. I've been to Dickies Arena. I saw Dr. Peterson do a lecture there last year. Oh, man. It was awesome.
Cool. He said he was going to film his next special here in Fort Worth. Like, he said the last one was, I think, Nebraska.
Kreischer's going to do it here?
Yeah.
That's
the next one he's going to film in Fort Worth.
Hell yeah. I'll be there. I'll definitely be there for that.
Yeah, big production value, I'm sure.
I bet. I mean,
the coolest stuff now.
The level they're at? Holy shit.
Yeah. My favorite thing now going to see shows is the host and the feature. Like, if I'm going to see my favorite comic, obviously I'm there to see him, but it's always fun to see who's opening for him now.
Well, that's how I met Cheyenne, my first guest.
Oh, cool.
I got to see Ari Shaffir at the Addison Improv, and Neo Youngblood was the opener, and Cheyenne was the host. And then Ari did like an hour and a half of just like brand new material. It was fucking nuts.
Oh, man.
It was literally like a week after Thing came out. Jew. His special on YouTube.
Right.
He came and he literally did like an hour and a half of new shit nobody had ever heard before. And he murdered.
Wow.
But like prior to him, Cheyenne fucking killed because he got the, like, you can tell a good host, a good opener really do set up the main event.
Yeah.
And if they suck, then it really does kind of fall on the shoulders of the master comedian to win everybody over. And they're good at doing it when they have to, but it's even better when the crowd's kind of like, we're in there with you.
Yeah.
You know, we're happy. And I know exactly what you're talking about. So like, I was so pumped to have him as my first guest because I was like, dude, how awesome is what you just did?
Yeah, just saw him crush.
Yeah, like and then I got to see Cheyenne multiple times after that because he's always around the Dallas scene. And I've seen the routine that he worked on back then just get so much tighter and so much better and cool things added to it. That's the special part to me that most people don't get to see is you're not at the clubs as often as I am.
Right.
And I love seeing people just kind of like fine tuning their work. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Because you're actually seeing the art in motion. Like it's actually happening in front of your eyes. You're like, oh, fuck, I remember there was like 7 words you got rid of and it's so much better now.
Yeah. I think it'll make you appreciate a special once that comic comes out with a special years later. You're like, oh, that's how much different it is from the time I saw it and everything, you know?
That's the other thing is like, I love specials, especially when you see the evolution of a comedian get better and better at their craft.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun to follow that on the bigger stage.
Yeah,
but like the new guys starting out are awesome to see too.
Yeah.
Not so much on your open mic night. That was weird. Like a guy almost got into a fight for no reason.
Yeah, that made it a fun night.
It was interesting.
That night's awful. I was guest hosting that, or that mic is awful. It's fun for a few buddies that come there on the regular, but it's not a consistent room. You know what I'm saying? It's not one that you're going to be like, oh, you got to come work your stuff here. We just a lot of times that devolves into us like making set lists for each other there and just kind of trying to riff and stuff like that. See what we can work on. But that night was as hectic as it was. That made it a little bit more fun than just 3 comics showing up and doing their same set over and over.
That shit was hilarious, dude. I loved it, especially the fact. And nothing against that comedian dude, but like you had a whole sign posting and all this other stuff set up, and maybe just work on your material a little bit more.
It was
please.
Misplaced for Dusty's. I hope he didn't know what he was getting himself into when he brought the whole setup and everything.
Yeah, dude. Like, what's the point? Like, there's 2 drunk people at the bar that weren't there for comedy.
Right.
One guy trying to pick up a to-go order, and then just us, just hanging out.
Yeah, that's the place.
But it was I like those mics because when there isn't anybody around except for comics, it's almost like you see the inception of new shit.
Yeah.
You can like throw around stuff and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the feeling I got in Austin too. There was almost a larger freedom over there to try new material that I don't see here in Dallas.
I get that for sure. Like being over there, I don't want to get too deep on like what I feel like it encourages or whatever, because I'm just gonna be talking out of my ass. But Dallas definitely has, and maybe it's because there's more clubs here, because there's more clubs than you would think. There's way more clubs here than there were in Austin when I was living there. Austin's kind of caught up since the few big ones have opened up and everything, but there's a lot of clubs, and there's a lot of obvious like hosting positions and stuff like that. And there's even a clean club here where a lot of people want you to be clean. It almost like
is that Plano House of Comedy?
No, Backdoor.
Backdoor Comedy.
Yeah,
yes, thank you.
Club.
Backdoor is the clean one.
Yeah. But I think Dallas encourages joke writing, which is a great thing, and Austin might encourage you to develop a little bit more of a character and a personality, you know what I mean, with that freedom that you're talking about. There's not as many restrictions anywhere, you know what I mean? Not restrictions, but it feels a little bit more like the Wild West. It feels like everybody's coming down there to be a little crazy and stuff. And Dallas has a lot of clubs that are trying to get you to get that hosting set, you know what I mean?
Okay. And in your opinion, with the way comedy's going now, what's a better environment to be in? The freedom and kind of like what Austin's doing, or Dallas where they're trying to kind of set you up to have upward mobility in the traditional sense?
I think it's where you're aiming. And if I'm being honest, I think I like this would be like a big generalization, I guess. But if I'm focusing on Backdoor and stuff, those are like clean comedies, like dry bar specials. A lot of the comics that tour like the Midwest and stuff, like Oklahoma, the Arkansas and stuff like that, and everywhere. And then Austin, you've got it's a little bit more skankfest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
to that effect, like a couple of my favorite comedians right now that are like up and comers, Lucas McCreary and Cam Patterson.
Very funny dudes. Yeah,
really funny dudes, but I feel like wouldn't have the opportunity in Dallas.
Yeah,
their shit wouldn't hit.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're not funny; it's they're fucking absolutely hysterical.
And it's not the same kind of opportunities. Like
it's just Dallas is a little bit more conservative in certain ways, I think.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, like we're not fully liberal here, but we're not fully conservative. We're just like in this weird gray area where there's a lot more tolerance than people think, but there's also a fine line that you can't cross.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've gotten that feeling many a times being just a crowd member in Dallas. Never get that in Austin. Never got that in New York. Never got that in LA either.
I think Dallas has it kind of reflects, you were talking about Austin's creativity and stuff. Dallas is like a business-oriented scene. Dallas almost encourages you to build that 15-minute set of jokes. Like a lot of bookers not a lot of bookers because I haven't talked to a lot of bookers, but a lot of the people that I do know that do book shows want to know what set you're going to be, not what set you're going to be doing, but they want to have an idea of what you're going to be doing for their show. You know what I mean? In Austin, I feel like it's just a little bit more loose, and I like that about it down there, even though I feel like I am more of a joke writer than a fun, outgoing character on stage. You know what I mean?
I feel like, and I could be completely wrong because I'm not a comedian, nor did I live in Austin at all, but I feel like Austin's the incubator, And once you've hatched, Dallas is kind of a place, just like any other, like go on the road and see if your shit works. A way to grow, way to figure out, you know, outside of my comfort of Austin like people, how do I get my stuff to murder everywhere?
Initially, I would think of it as the opposite, as
Really?
as Dallas is that place to like grow and work on your stuff, because you would hopefully, I think joke structure is more apparent here, because even at the open mic, like the best open mics here are at the clubs, obviously. Like Fort Worth Hyenas is one of my favorite open mics, and that's after a pro show. So you're always at the clubs around other shows that you can be watching pro comics. You know what I mean?
Does Fort Worth do the 3 for $25 like they do here at the Hyenas, Dallas?
Yeah, that's the free show on.
Yeah, it's the Thursday nights. And
yeah.
that, if you have nothing to do on a Thursday in Dallas, which is almost always, go see a 3 for $25. You'll be surprised at the amount of really talented people that just happen to be popping in because they've got like a weekend going on somewhere, and they're like, okay, I'll do it Thursday, 3 for $25. It sounds fun. And it's not a regular set. It's a 25-minute set. So it's always kind of like spliced together a bunch of stuff, because you're not doing a 30 and you're not doing a 15.
It's a good amount of time. It's fun.
You get crowd work. You get a lot of fun stuff happening. And you get comedians that'll do like really, you know, the stuff that they know that is murdering, and then they'll fuck around with the crowd with some other stuff.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to see. So like that, just for anybody, like if you got something to do in Fort Worth or in Dallas, go see a 3 for $25 at Hyenas on a Thursday. Tip your waitress, because they're awesome.
Yeah.
And and then if stick around for open mics afterwards, because it gets hilarious. There's always like 20 comedians, 3 drunk guys. And that's usually how it ends at like around midnight. So if you want to see what it's like when a comedian has to kind of like just push through it, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your opinion of open mics? Kind of like, do you love when there's a ton of people there, or do you like it when it's like a smaller crowd and you can just freely work shit out?
That depends on the mood I'm in, but lately I like it when it's kind of a bad open mic, when there's not a lot of people there, because that's just where I am right now. I'm fixing to do I'm 2.5 years in, fixing to do 20 for the first time this weekend.
Where at?
In Waco.
Okay.
Brazos Theater in Waco. Yeah.
Very nice.
So I've done 15 a handful of times now at shows. That's gone well enough that I'm comfortable doing 15-minute sets. About to do 20 for the first time.
So to that effect, how long did it take for you to kind of have a solid 5?
A while. And when I started, I got some advice from older comics that were like, for your first year, if you can get a tight 5 minutes that you like your first year, then you're ahead of the game. I don't know if you'd really call that ahead of the game. I think it's pretty on par. So I haven't, since we moved back to Dallas, I've been trying to come up with like new material. You're always trying to come up with new material, but I was trying to polish that 15 for so long and kind of stuck on that, like getting the feel for what 15 minutes on stage feels like. And now I'm going to try to start doing 20, but building like 5 minutes at a time, you're not really ever sure, like, can I just wedge this into my set? Does it actually extend it, or am I compressing? And you know what I mean?
I get what
like,
you're saying.
Every time you add 5 minutes, it's not really, I did 15, now I have 20. It's more like you did 15, now you probably got like 17. Like it kind of just squeezes in, you know what I mean? So trying to expand and get from 15 to 20 is was a pretty big goal of mine. I was hoping to get there at the end of last year. I was hoping to have like a nice tight 20 minutes, and I just didn't really have the new material to spread that out, or to even try to get on stage to spread that out and make it 20. 15 still felt kind of iffy at the end of last year, but I hope to be growing at a faster rate than 5 minutes a year, you know what I mean? I think that's the biggest thing holding me back from feeling like I'm a real comic, you know what I mean?
What do you think is holding you back from being able to accomplish more than 5 minutes in a given year? Or adding an extra, because like at some point, your 20 now is going to start getting old.
Right.
And I understand why you want the exponential growth to occur, where you're adding 20 minutes a year, let's say, next year, and then you're able to do solid 30s, because then you can start piecing together years of material into like a big hour.
Yeah.
Something that's really solid that you're happy to do.
Right.
So have you kind of like pinpointed, is it stage time that's kind of holding you back? Is it the writing process? What is it that you think is kind of like impeding more than 5 minutes?
It's not stage time because there's plenty of stage time here in Dallas to work on stuff. I think honestly, and kind of vulnerable, my biggest problem is probably self-esteem, dude. Like just self-confidence, and that's not a good place for a comic to be in, to me. Like you want to go step out on stage and people know that you're funny. You know what I mean?
You understand, you do not stand on that hill alone. Like every fucking comic will say the exact same thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about every comic.
Oh my God.
I think too many shitty comics are too arrogant. But
see, that's the difference between a good comic and a shitty comic. And I alluded to that. Like the guys that are 10 plus years into it that think they're the fucking God's gift.
Yeah.
Those guys suck.
Yeah.
But the people that you hear talk off the stage where they're just like, fuck, that could have been so much better. And you're just sitting there going like, you absolutely annihilated every single human being that was watching you, and you still think you can be better. That's a true comic. So you have that gift, which I'm telling you, you're not alone on that hill. All comedians forever that are good and want to continue to get good still feel like they're not worthy of it.
Right.
Going back to like Tom Segura and Matt Rife, like Matt Rife, the way he's exploded and what he's doing now, and he still's like, he's like, I still feel like I'm going to wake up tomorrow and feel this is going to be like a shitty dream, like, you know, a nightmare, not the actual reality of what my life is. He's going to wake up
ugly.
Not the ugly part, but like, he's like, you know, this kind of like fucking superstardom and being able to go from like barely able to sell out a weekend to now like selling out theaters and kind of like, you know, that progress. He's like, that's a true comedian. A person that doesn't want to lose that is so fearful of it. You know, like that's a good thing to have.
I mean, he's, and I'm not a Matt Rife hater. I said he'd be ugly. I don't know his comedy or anything, but I know he's worked hard.
I think that's the funny part of it is like, because he's a super attractive human being who's also really funny. Yeah. And that should never translate in like the comedy space.
So he gets an angle. It's a good angle instead of a tough angle.
The funny thing is
he's got an angle.
He's found a way to self-deprecate on the fact that he's cute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
that's
it's like,
cool.
It's awesome the fact that he's figured that out where he's like, hey, this isn't all it's fucking chalked up to be, you know, like, hold on a second. Let me explain to you how fucked up I looked all of high school and all of this and all that. And then you're like, okay, cool. I can level with this guy. And
was it true
really
though?
Funny.
Or is he like the girl from Not Another Teen movie where he was actually good looking in high school, but said he was ugly?
So here's the thing. I want Matt Rife as a guest on my podcast one day. So for that simple reason, I do zero research on my guests.
Oh, okay.
Same thing with you is like,
oh, cool.
The only thing that I do in the form of research is if I find something that of yours that's funny, and then I make it a prerequisite to see you live at least once.
Yeah.
And then we do the podcast. So when I say, where were you born? I've not done any research whatsoever. I have no clue.
Okay.
That's what makes it fun and genuine to me. Yeah. So if Matt really was ugly in high school, I don't know. But when he's sitting in that chair, I'm going to fucking ask him just so like, hey, dude, a friend of mine who's also a comedian wanted to know, were you really ugly? But yeah.
It's conspiracy.
I feel like, and I could be wrong about this, but I feel like if I do research on a guest, my mind will always want to kind of like go towards a certain path.
Oh, I feel you.
Versus that path not being laid out and we discover it together.
Okay. Yeah.
It's more fun for me that way. Like,
for sure.
It's cool.
Yeah.
To that effect, so, you know, keep that mindset of like, feeling like, you know, the confidence is not there or the self-esteem because it'll continue to be a driving force of you becoming a better comedian.
I agree, but I've also, and I almost said this about something we were talking about earlier, I feel like I let that get in my way a lot, man, because I'm scared of my notebook in a way that I've had to recognize where I don't want to write something down because I know I'll see it after I write it down and be like, that shit's not funny. Like, why did you even think that was funny? Why did you write that? So a lot of times me writing is me trying to get over not putting my pen to paper and just like, and I do write pen to, I've learned that I prefer pen to paper than typing over typing, which I always I asked, especially when I was, or not as much lately, I guess, but right when I started, I was like asking everybody, I was like, how do you write? And I literally mean how, because my first 5 minutes all came from the same me laying in bed writing stuff down before I went to sleep, like specifically at that time. So I'm always curious, like, what space do people get in to write their stuff? What I hate hearing is when people say that they just write on stage. I believe it to an extent now, but I'm like, what else do you do? Like, you've got to...
What do you mean they write on stage?
so many people say that if they write a joke out before they go on stage or whatever, like if they write pen to paper, that when they get on stage, it feels inauthentic or whatever. It sounds scripted, whatever the case.
What kind of bullshit is that?
Right. And a lot of people, like Mark Norman, will say that's bullshit.
I was about to mention Mark Norman because he's got that motherfucking stack in his back pocket of just papers.
Just loose shit.
Like that infamous loose paper
He's got
pile.
just a bag of leaves in his back pocket full of jokes. Yeah.
I got to see him at Skankfest too, twice.
Oh,
fucking
cool.
murdered twice. Oh, man, that was so awesome.
I love Mark Norman.
Fuck yeah.
But I think he's on the side of the spectrum of hard-nosed joke writer, where if you're doing the opposite of that, if you're one of those guys that say you're a writer on stage, if you're like, oh, I work all my jokes out on stage, and maybe what they're saying isn't so black and white as I never write anything down. Maybe they do still create a set list of topics they want to do before stage. Maybe they do still come up with like an idea that they want to try. But I have written stuff out, not necessarily word for word, but I have to find on paper the punchline, the point of what I'm trying to say with that joke. You know what I mean?
I mean, I feel like if you kind of like read any of the books written by comedians, watch any podcasts by like big comedians, almost every single one of them says you've got to write. Mm-hmm. You got to find your way of writing, and but you have to, like, pen to paper has to occur somehow.
I got you.
And I don't think that's kind of, I think that all people that are creative, outside of maybe Jay-Z, who never actually writes down any lyrics.
Yeah.
Most people do this because, like you said, if I like, maybe visualizing it on the paper allows you to kind of do the word economy. Mm-hmm. And yes, of course, you're going to have to work that shit out on stage.
Yeah.
Like a ton before you actually find where it's really killing and what it's doing. Mm-hmm. But to say that, you write on stage, that makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
You needed to have the premise. You needed to have an idea of what you were going to do and then figure out a punchline for it. Mm-hmm. All of that has to happen. It can't just flow out of you like that. It happens for crowd work, sure, but that's not the same thing.
I feel the same way. It blows my mind. I can't fathom it. I can't be like, how are you not just pausing every 10 seconds just to like find your friend? And maybe that proves how much quicker those guys are. But yeah, I don't. It's not my style yet. But I also have the problem of becoming like too scripted too often. Not scripted, but scripted. That's the right way to put it. Too scripted too often. Where you, best way I put it is, I have my jokes. If I make a set list, if I'm doing a 10-minute set and I'll make a set list, too often I was feeling like I was going on a roller coaster, just like kind of trudging along. And I was like, all right, I got this joke, just like set up, punch, set up, punch. You don't feel like that either. You want to be more in the moment. You want to be present-minded and everything. You don't want to just be reading a script to a room of people.
No, I get what you're saying. And I think part of that comes from just comfort on stage and flowing with your material more than just saying it, like, set up punchline. That, some people just are great at that, like Jimmy Carr is amazing at just like set up punchline, and just like all the jokes don't have to have any connection to each other. Right. They're all just different subject matter. But that's a rarity, man. Like, not many people do it that way. Most comedians have like a very nice flow of, like a central theme or something, or multiple themes that just kind of flow together. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I guess you just got to figure out your version of it.
That's a cool part of writing and being someone that leans into writing on paper is I do see, as I start getting some jokes down, as my set starts to grow, you see how things kind of tie together without intentionally doing that. You know what I mean? So sometimes I have an idea and you hear it, listen to podcasts from other people. They're like, jot down your idea when you have the idea. It was a Noah Garden-Schwartz joke about a Subway sandwich or something.
Okay.
He was like, this was a real exchange that happened. I forget the joke, but something crazy happened in a Subway line. And he was like, all right, I just have to write this down. Don't make any exaggerations. Don't try to find the punchline right now. Just literally try to document what's happening. Get the idea down so that you can work on it later and everything.
All right. I mean, look, everybody's got their own way and style of writing.
Yeah.
You found yours.
Yeah.
But like, it's funny that your writer's block is you're literally afraid of your own pen and pad.
Yeah, you can make any excuses to why you're not progressing the way you're progressing, you know. I still jot down every idea. Like I said, when the idea comes, I'll still jot it down. I still have the list of notes. But as far as like breaking down and like trying to come up with what I want to be like, you know what I mean? Like, I think of comedy the same way of like, is your voice on stage, is it like nature or nurture? You know what I mean?
Okay.
Is it just like natural, or are you choosing who you want to be? Like how much affects it? You know what I mean? And I know that I want to be more observational. I want to stop talking about the same few themes that I have right now with my 15 or so minutes. You know what I mean?
Okay. But like you want to be more observational. You want to do more things, but what's holding you back from that?
But I think it's hard. This turned into like a comedy therapy session.
Yeah, no, sorry, I didn't mean that. No. But like, that's kind of the fun of these conversations.
That's where I'm at mentally always. You know what I mean? How do I grow in this? You know?
Okay. But isn't that the right place to be 2.5 years into it? You're still figuring it out. You're still trying to kind of like get your own lane. And
I think so. And I want to remain very open about not knowing what the fuck I'm doing right now. Remaining not, I talked about having a lack of confidence. I'm either way low on confidence or I'm an arrogant prick, like about things. Like I have those moments where things surface and I'm like, I should be getting booked more. I have been working hard, but I don't have.
Oh, you mean you're fucking human?
Yeah, yeah.
And like at some point the ego comes out and goes like, fuck, dude, this should have been mine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it feels
like,
gross.
It's normal. It happens to every single one of us. Like, it's cool, dude. Like, it happens. It's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
The problem is people that don't check that shit.
Yeah.
They have an issue.
Right.
Those of us that understand that that's like the evil side of you that's holding you actually back from what you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you're just like, dude, shut the fuck up. You haven't done anything to deserve anything.
Exactly.
And you say that to yourself, and at some point, that voice listens and goes, yeah, maybe he's right. Fuck, maybe we should work a little bit harder and then start complaining if nothing happens.
I always think, and I had the conversation with a few buddies a few weeks ago, where I was like, I feel like I need like 2 hours of comedy. I need 120 minutes of comedy to be where I think I want to be, because I need so much of material to put out. You need an hour special to be a headliner. And I'm talking about years in advance from now or whatever. I want an hour special to put out of my own. I want some time to put out before that comes out to to market the hour. You know what I mean? And getting on that, I was talking to some buddies and I was like, I feel like I need this 2 hours of material and everything. And they were trying to talk me off that ledge. And I was like, I don't know how it's any other way. I don't know how you could need less, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's kind of the arrogant side of it, to think that I'm going to need that much time instead of focusing on where I'm at right now, where I have 15 minutes and it's always changing instead of growing, you know what I mean?
So what's wrong with having a goal that is 120 minutes and then breaking it down into 15-minute segments until you get there?
I think, there's nothing wrong with that big goal, but I think it's not chopping it up into those 15-minute segments, you know, kind of realizing where you're at.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, regardless of the way you look at it, you're already doing it.
That's
you know
true.
what I mean? Like, you have no choice but to chop it up that way, and then you're going to probably throw away a bunch of it before you get to that 120 that you're happy with, and then that 120 is going to get broken down into the 60 that you're really, really happy with.
Yeah.
That's years.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, only translates into years of work.
True.
And it's like, if you know the road's there and you're ready to go down that path, hell yes.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't need the 120 in the end, and maybe it comes a lot quicker than you thought, but shit, you're already on the path.
Maybe. And that's true. Me and my wife were talking even this morning where I was like, man, that like 20 minutes, that's a pretty cool thing. And she was like, just imagine a few years ago how nervous you were to do 1 minute of comedy.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's true. That's
Speaking to that, what actually made you want to be a comedian? What kind of springboarded it?
I could go down a million different routes, but I think it's always been my safety blanket. I think it's always been like the one thing that I cared about. Like when I was a kid, I loved sports and stuff.
Okay.
But even my first football practice, I was like drop kicking the dummies like water boy. Like I was trying to be a clown, you know what I mean? Even stuff that wasn't funny, it was more annoying than funny. I was always trying to be funny.
Okay.
I was always admiring stand-up, like at relatives get-togethers and stuff. If I could find a Comedy Central presents to put on and get away from everybody and just kind of watch that was heaven to me, you know?
Yeah, when Comedy Central was cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna keep saying that until you become cool again. Fuck you guys. Like, you guys were so awesome back in the day.
I know. It was, I don't know, man.
It's like, seriously? Come on, man. So much good comedy came out of Comedy Central.
Yeah.
Now they have The Daily Show.
It's cool that it died because it gave way for everybody to just carve their own path because there's no hub anymore. That's a cool thing. But I do miss
But they could have still
South Park
existed.
and Premium Blend and like that was a nice, yeah.
I guess kind of like Kmart, all things come to an end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Comedy Central to Kmart. That's a rough comparison.
Yeah, well, they became that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
Target's still doing great.
Empty shelves of comedy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every 3 months they were about to go bankrupt and just barely skate by. So like, oh, we still have that one good thing.
You see the video on YouTube, you're like, there's still a Comedy Central video. That's crazy. I thought
Yeah,
those are all gone.
You're like, holy shit, that CC represented something at one point in time.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, that's right. You guys used to be the king of roasts, and you used to be having the greatest 30-minute specials.
The old logo was better too.
Yeah.
The building, the skyscrapers and stuff. I wanted that tattooed for a while. That's lame as hell. Yeah.
So where did you get up on stage the first time?
One Nostalgia, little.
Where's that at?
It's right here in Dallas, dude. It's pretty. It's like a little karaoke bar. It's over there in I forget what part it's off Skillman, but it's it's.
I know nothing of Dallas. I'm still learning.
Just a rough little karaoke bar.
Okay.
Not a Sunday night, little Sunday night place. I was like scouting mics for weeks, and well, I guess there's two stories. I guess that's kind of corny, but the first time I did stand up was on Kill Tony.
Okay.
And
like first time ever.
Yeah. So I signed up for a class when Dallas Comedy Club was Dallas Comedy House. This was in 2019.
So that's not the first time I saw you on KT.
Well, maybe not. If you saw way back then, that was 2019. Adam Ray was the guest.
Maybe I did see it,
but I wasn't even doing stand up or anything. It was July of 2019.
How'd it go?
Worse in my head than it went on the thing, but the interview was real weird. I clammed up, got real awkward.
And have you signed up since?
Yeah, I got on in Austin right before I moved back.
So that's the one I saw you on.
That's the one you saw me on.
Yeah. So I haven't seen the 2019 one.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I'm glad. Yeah.
But now I'm gonna have to go back and look at it.
Yeah, I forget which episode, but it was. I don't know the number.
And was this already at the Vulcan, or?
This was at Plano Hyenas. That doesn't even exist anymore.
Kill Tony was at Plano Hyenas?
Yeah.
No shit.
It was before they moved to Austin.
So it was like one of their road gigs?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I got you.
And I was in the middle of taking a comedy class at Dallas Comedy House. And it was like the fourth week of the class. It was like once a week on Thursdays. And
I've taken one of those classes.
Yeah.
I took one at Flappers Comedy Club in Burbank.
Yeah.
Because I was very curious about like the whole comedy idea.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, no.
Classes are kind of rough, dude.
It was, yeah.
I'm still glad I did it, even though I only took 4 of the 7 weeks or 3 of the 7 weeks or whatever.
Okay.
It was almost like I did the same thing with bass lessons. I like paid money. I'm like, I'm going to learn. I'm going to like make some kind of investment because I'm a cheap bastard. So I was like, if I put a little bit of money in this, then there's an actual investment now and I'll learn how to do the thing. I'll be involved. I'll spend time in it. I didn't do it with the bass, but I did do it with comedy. Like I spent the money and then kept doing it. But after that class on Thursday, I went to Kill Tony, got on Kill Tony instead of that, and I didn't go back to the class. Me and my wife ended up moving to Austin so I could go back to school. I didn't go start comedy down there. We moved back to Dallas, and then I started up here in Dallas at One Nostalgia, like a year after that Kill Tony thing.
So you do a Kill Tony, don't do anything after that, and then you do One Nostalgia a year later in Dallas.
Yeah, for some reason, a minute on Kill Tony was less nerve-wracking than like 3 minutes at an open mic.
How come?
I was more focusing on the time. I was like, a minute up and down off stage is less nerve-wracking than 3 minutes. Yeah. And I thought if I do it on camera, on a podcast, on Kill Tony or whatever, then I'll really have started for some reason. If you're starting comedy, you're stupid. But whatever dumb mindset I was coming from made sense to me at the time. That your first time doing stand-up being Kill Tony is crazy. That's a bad move.
Yeah, not a smart idea.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's been a bunch of people that have done their first time there.
Yeah.
Almost never does somebody, like, like a shining beacon. And you're like, holy shit, that guy's going to be great one day.
Right.
But like people a few years into it get really good minutes out of there, and you're like, oh shit, there's potential there.
Yeah.
You're like, oh cool, there's someone that could probably do something in the future.
Because if you're doing it for your first time, you probably don't even know what a minute feels like.
Plus, I'm sure, especially the size of the stage now, because it's at the mothership, it's got to be daunting to have that many people in front of you if all you've ever done is like an open mic, or if you've never done anything.
You really can't tell.
Really?
I could see a couple people, but especially the angle you're at, because you're kind of looking at you do your minute in front of everybody, and you can kind of see the first couple rows. But then after that minute's up and Tony starts talking to you immediately, you're kind of facing that way. Everybody's kind of gone to you after, or at least my experience.
How'd it go on your second go around on KT, in your opinion?
The second one, that was great because, first of all, the minute went well, and then he invited me on another show the next night, and then that show went pretty well. That was fun. The interview was decent instead of awful like the first time. You know what I mean? That first time I was I just got too nervous and in my head. You know what I mean? Probably rambling like I am now, but
no, I mean, like there's a difference between what ours is it's a long form. Like this can go for as many hours as we'd like to sit down and talk.
Yeah.
Whereas Kill Tony's podcast, there needs to be kind of like X amount of minutes he can talk to you, because he's got to get another person on the stage. Cause that's the entire format. Like the whole point of it is like, let's get introduced to a bunch of different comedians and see who's really funny.
You know what sucks too, and I've noticed that he has a bad habit of, is he asks multiple questions at one time, and I don't know if he does it on purpose to throw people off, but he'll double up questions. So he'll ask two things at once. He'll be like, so where are you from? What made you start doing comedy? And you'll answer one of those things, and he'll be like, that's not what I asked you. You know what I mean? Like a kind of an edgy thing, like a...
I don't know. I doubt he would be doing it on purpose in a way.
Yeah.
More than likely, it might just be the way his mind works, like a million miles an hour.
Yeah, he's going so fast. Yeah,
I saw him at Skankfest, and fucking he murdered.
Right.
He was at the stand, and like I saw him do 15 minutes, and just me and Mike were just standing there going like, "Fuck, this guy just murdered."
Yeah.
And the speed translates to stage too. Like he is very, very quick, and it's like a mile a minute. It's just punchline after punchline after punchline.
Yeah.
So probably with the format of the show being so fast paced, he probably just asks a question in series and just probably forgets.
For sure.
I don't think it's intentional in any way.
Right.
But at the same time, you as the person being interviewed, I can understand how it's also daunting for you, where you may catch the first question but not catch the second one, or kind of where the flow is. That makes sense too.
Right.
And there's got to be some sort of comedic level to it being added, like, you know, because he fucks with everybody.
He's definitely trying to keep you on your toes. Yeah, that's why I'm like paranoid. I'm like, how much of this is like some kind of evil genius bullshit? You know what I mean? Like,
look, it's been going for 10 years.
Yeah.
It only gets bigger. I don't know if I'd attach evil to it, but there's genius to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of genius to making, and I don't know if he was the first person to ever do this. I'm sure many people have tried to do it after he's done it.
Yeah.
His is the only one that's this successful. So there's a level of genius to the format of that podcast and that show. I don't even like calling it a podcast. It feels like a full-fledged production, a show that like, because there's a band and there's like special guests, and there's a lot more to that than what I kind of understand as a podcast, where it's just like a bunch of people talking.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's a better way to put it too.
And it's not to dumb it down. It's the exact opposite of that. I hold it in a higher regard than I hold just like conversation, because again, the bands and all the work that goes into this, you know, like there's a ton of people that work on that show in the background that you know nothing about. And like when I was in Austin, I got to see a little bit of that, like the outside of the entire team of people that have to like wrangle all these fucking people up and call their names and get them ready and all that shit. It takes a lot of patience, I would say, to make a show like that work, and it works. So yeah, there's genius to it.
No, it's sold out for the rest of the year for a reason. It's super fun.
They sold out some big ass arena in Austin, I think, or in Vegas. They sold out the MGM Grand for their New Year's Eve special.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's already sold out. Like,
dang.
Seriously?
I know they sold out, or maybe it was last year, they sold out the HEB Center or something.
That was the 10-year anniversary. That was this year in June.
Did you go to that?
I didn't go to that because it sold out like shit.
Oh, yeah.
Way too early, but that was one of the funnier ones. It was fucking ridiculous. I don't know. It's a show that works great. And amongst the comedy circles, I'm sure there's people that hate him. And there's a ton of people that like him and love him. And I don't have an opinion either way because I don't know the man, and it would be unfair to formulate an opinion based on a public persona, which is a shock comedian, as a lot of people have put for some reason or other, many reasons. But like, if that's that's the way you are, that's the bravado that you have to carry that to a certain degree. You know what I mean? Like,
you kind of have to own it, and that's the way his show
he does own it, dude. Like, I saw the guy fucking walking around at Skankfest exactly the same way as he is on stage or on his show. Like, he's got that fucking not off-putting, but you wouldn't approach him the same way you would approach, let's say, Mark Norman.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There's a difference between these two styles of comedian.
Right.
Even though Mark says some of the craziest shit you'll ever hear, it's the way he delivers it and the way he says it that's just very soft and not, like, it's very different than the way Tony's style of comedy is.
Not as cutting, I guess.
Maybe.
Like, yeah.
Maybe not as cutting, but both are equally as polarizing in my opinion. Like, you either love or hate both comedians.
Oh, I got you. Stylistically, for sure. Yeah.
They're not like the type of comedian that just kind of like universally everybody loves. Like Russell Peters. Right. Everybody loves Russell Peters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love him. I think he's one of the funniest guys.
Yeah.
And he appeals to such a massive audience, which is awesome. Kevin Hart is one of those comedians too.
Yeah.
He just universally is loved, which is, there's that type of comedian.
Right.
And then there's comedians that are the Dave Attells, the Mark Normans, the George Carlins, anybody on this wall. Fucking, the Louis C.K.'s of the world that are just, they have their own lane, and if you're on board with it, you're on board all the way. Otherwise, you will never like that guy.
Yeah.
They're not like the casual comedy.
Yeah.
That's, I guess, the best way I can put it.
I want a little more of that. I feel like right now I'm a little too safe. I'm like not wanting to push boundaries. I'm kind of just wanting to find my own groove and everything. But that's not a way to play it. Like, I'm not trying to be a dickhead or anything, but you got to not worry about any way that you're perceived. And when I'm talking about self-confidence and stuff, I'm very cautious about, like, or maybe not cautious. I'm very worried about how I'm going to come across with the things I say or things like that.
I get you.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I don't like it when comedians self-censor themselves.
Yeah, for sure. Me neither.
For me, it's like sometimes the bleeding edge may be a little too much, but I understand why it has to exist.
Yeah.
But I love seeing it.
Yeah.
And I think it's so funny. Dark comedy is really funny to me. Comedians that are just pushing boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're called alt comedians, or like, they don't follow the same standard maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those guys and gals are just fucking hilarious, dude.
Zach Galifianakis was like huge for me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's hilarious, but again, he's like bleeding edge comedy.
Yeah.
It's very different from some of the other names, like that. You're just like, oh, okay.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, for people that don't know who Dave Attell is, like, I feel like you don't know what comedy is, because, like, he's so goddamn good. But he's never done a special, nor does he care to do one. But if you ever see the guy perform live, dude, you'll piss your pants.
I saw him live for the first time this year, and I'm not like I love Dave Attell, but I'm not in the like, some people love Dave Attell, like they're Dave Attell guys. I wouldn't say I'm a Dave Attell guy. I love Dave Attell, but not as much as his biggest fans. You know what I mean? Like, Louis my favorite comic.
CK.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, dude. Louis is definitely up there on my Mount Rushmore of comedians.
It's hard for me to put anybody else, like him and Bill Burr, are like way up there for me.
Bill's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Bill's I love Bill Burr too, but yeah, I know I get what you're saying as far as, like, whoever your favorite comedian is will always be your favorite comedian.
Yeah.
I almost feel lucky that I don't have a favorite.
Oh, that's cool.
I have so many that I love because I found each of them has a genre within comedy that I identify with and I really like. Like, a lot of people may not like Stephen Wright's work, but I love him. He's fucking hilarious comedian. And the same goes with, like, all the shit I get to see now. Dude, there's so much funny people that people have no idea about. And I love being there to see, like, so much of what future murderers are going to be.
Do you have a favorite that you've seen this year?
Favorite comedian? So, fuck, man, that's so hard to, like, pin down a favorite comedian. But someone that I've seen twice this year and see, the problem is, like, if I name a name, there's so many other people that might get offended by this, and there's just like no really good way of putting. Fuck no, I can't. Yes, there is a person that.
Is it a local? Is that why you're hesitating?
No, that's why I'm hesitating, because it's not a local.
Oh, okay.
But there is a person that
Amy Schumer. That's it.
Yeah, please.
She's just a buzzword. I don't even know why people shit on her so much.
Because she's not funny. Her shit sucks.
I heard she got accused of stealing jokes. That would suck. But then I heard that it might have been like her writing team that like pitched her stuff or something. I don't know. So I just try to stay away from it. You know,
that's even worse for me. If you have a writing team to do your fucking special.
No, her show. She had a show.
But I thought it was on one of her specials that she had stolen.
If that's the case, that would suck. That would be totally different.
And you know what? She's not alone in this fucking camp. I've seen really good comedians steal shit that's like 20 or 30 years old. Stealing Carlin's material, stealing Robin Williams' material, blatantly fucking verbatim.
Dang.
But it's to a crowd of people that just haven't heard something that was in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
And they have no idea that it's not new material, that is, you're just ripping somebody off. I won't say anybody's name, but like, fuck you, and I walked out of your show.
Damn.
And because I hate that shit, dude.
Dang.
You can't steal somebody else's creativity.
I got accused of stealing the joke I did on Kill Tony.
Really? Whose joke would they accuse you of stealing?
Nate Bargatze, dude. Nate Bargatze has it's so, and I got to tell.
By the way, shout out to Nate, because I love you. You're one of the funniest fucking people ever.
His
fucking bit about buying the same damn jacket because it was reversible.
Oh yeah,
dude, that kills me every time, every fucking time.
Yeah, he came out with a special in like February on Amazon Prime, and in the promo before the special comes out, my buddy calls me and is like, "Dude, watch this video, watch this clip or whatever." He sends me the YouTube thing. And he has a punchline that it was my favorite joke. It was like, for my first 5 minutes, it was like the joke. It was a good joke. And obviously, Nate used it on his thing. And he uses the same tag, and my buddy sends me the video, and I'm watching it, and it feels like a prank. I was like, no way, man. Like, especially because it's Nate, because it's like a relatable comic.
Yeah.
It's like, of course, that would be the joke that you have something similar to as a comic that you would relate to or whatever. But because it was somebody like I had some admiration for, I was like, that really sucks. Not that he stole it or anything. There's no reason to not admire him. But it was just like
It doesn't mean either of you stole it. Because I feel like.
But if anybody sees that, no one's going to think. No, even if I saw it, you know what I mean? As a comedy fan, if I saw me doing that, I'd be like, that guy stole that joke.
I get
because
that.
It was so similar. It was one line, but that one line is so similar as his promo. But the fact that it was on his trailer makes it so obvious. I would have to be an idiot, you know.
So you dropped the joke.
I dropped that line.
You dropped that
line.
And
I still do it occasionally, but the joke survives. It's a 1.5 minute long joke. So that one line is just a tag that I don't have to say. I can say the minute before. I can say the part after.
Do you remember
but I like
when you
that
wrote it?
line. Yeah, I did it at my first open mic.
Ever?
Yep. And I have it on video
okay.
of my first open mic. Yeah.
If and when I am lucky enough to have Nate sit in this chair, I'm going to talk to him about it and be like, dude, this is how much respect other comedians have for you, that they took it out of, like, he took it out of his bit.
Yeah.
Even though he probably did it before you did it.
Yeah.
And just kind of get like an opinion of it.
If I get to earn my own name to the point where I get to be around Nate Bargatze and get to share that with him and be like, dude, I had a joke that had to burn, that'd be awesome. But I did get to open for his opener at the Improv, and I told Nate's opener about it because we were talking about a similar thing. I was like, yeah, I had to burn a joke because Nate Bargatze did the same thing on his promo, so it's going to make me look like a hack.
It's fine. You didn't steal the joke. You guys did the same similar joke in very different time frames, so that's okay. Shit happens. But like when you know the special that it was stolen from because it's so fucking old, that's different. You know what I mean? Like you started doing something as your first ever time on stage, and it's just a joke you carried through, you know, your routine. Mm-hmm. And then Nate in February says, "Hey, I've been doing this too," and you had no clue about it. That's very different from somebody going and watching Carlin's work from 25 years ago and then fucking doing it on stage.
Carlin's a bold one to pull from. That's pretty crazy. It'd be almost as corny as pulling off Nate Bargatze right now.
Dude, it's like, and it's like you've changed maybe 4 or 5 words to make it semi-relevant, but you can tell the foundation and the entirety of the fucking joke is not yours. Because the way you say it is not funny. But that's okay. Those are the same assholes that think they're the shit.
Yeah.
That's fine, dude. Like, you know what? In every industry, you're going to have hacks and you're going to have people that truly are in it because they love the art of creating and being able to be proud of what they've done. And that's great. It should be that way.
Yeah.
And then there's others that think that shortcuts are the way to get what they want.
Yeah.
And just sooner or later you fizzle out.
That's part of a hang up for me too. Like, I want to, by the end of the year, that's my new goal. I want to earn my own respect to a higher level. You know what I mean? Like, have a set that I'm proud of without holes that I'm kicking myself for. You know what I mean? Like, be a little bit more in the moment, adapt new things, not just have to shell up and just run through my set when I get on stage. You know what I mean? Like, be a little bit more open for pivot points. Because if you have a 15-minute set and it has to go the way that your set list goes, I feel like you don't really have a 15-minute set. I feel like if you have some room to pivot and to fill that out, then you can say you confidently have 15 minutes. Because that's what being good is, right? Being good consistently, not just occasionally.
I mean, I think the best comedians that I've gotten to see are the ones that you have mastered what you just want to master, is being able to pivot on the fly.
Yeah.
And I've seen it firsthand where comedian will start off strong, hit a joke that just fucks it all up because the crowd just doesn't get it. Like, comedians in the back are laughing hysterically, but everybody else is a moron who doesn't get the joke. And then you see them, like, within milliseconds, just literally fucking do a left turn, go into different material, segue perfectly, and then get the crowd back and just, like, fucking finish the whole thing strong. And you're like, oh, shit, that's a master. That's someone that knows exactly what they're doing. And that's hard. I don't even know how you get to that point. I wish I did, because I tell you.
Yeah.
But I feel like once you figure it out, you tell me.
Yeah.
Because it is a true art to be able to read your crowd on the fly and just bang, get the whole thing going.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. I saw it at Skankfest a couple of times. I've seen it here in Dallas a couple of times where you see master comedians on the fly just kind of like, oh, shit, that's not working. Okay, that entire 10 minutes that I had around this idea gets dropped, and you can tell it gets dropped right there, and they go into something completely different. And you're like, oh, fuck, that's so cool.
That's what makes the longer sets a little harder once you start trying to stretch, because you think you got 15 minutes to go into 20 or whatever, 10 to go into 15, and then you get there and you're like, oh, they're not buying it, and you start to roll over into that new joke, and then by the time you get to the end of your set, you've already moved past those topics too quickly, kind of burn out, you know what I mean?
And I think another thing that you're going to get is, like, as you're doing your routine of 15 and 20, you're going to find, like, new tags and new kind of, like, ways to get back to a joke and kind of, like, circle back and put everything together. I think that also comes just with time and, like,
for sure.
A new idea coming to your mind, and you try it on the stage and it doesn't work, and then you try it again in another one and it does work because you've changed some words around, and, like, your 5 becomes 7, your 7 becomes 9, 9 becomes 15. Like, Mike Eaton has this routine that he does about an AI sex robot thing that he bought during the pandemic. And I'll leave it there, but, like, he's gotten to the point where, you know, it could be 4 or 5 minutes, it could be 8 minutes, it could be 12, it could be 20. There's so much to it. And I've seen him do different variations of that thing, and each short, long, whatever it is, just it works great.
Nice.
But, like, he's worked on it for a while, and he's added to it, and he's kind of like, he's perfecting this amazing thing that I think is going to end up being like a 30-minute fucking thing, because it's got so much gold in it that he's still tapping into. Like, it's just fucking hilarious.
That's awesome.
But I think that's the idea of, like, I'm sure it started as a short, like, something, and then it grew, and it has grown over time, because, like, it started in the pandemic joke. And, like, it's grown into this standalone fucking hilarity thing that who cares about the pandemic anymore? That shit's awesome on its own. So, like, it's a treat to see that kind of stuff too. And I think that's also what you're trying to work on and kind of get to the point where, like, something that may start as a 5 will grow into its own 20 because you're able to kind of, like, branch out and try so much new stuff on a single premise.
I hope so. And that's definitely something I'm working on now, is making those little premises longer, because a lot of stuff that I have now is about a minute long. You know what I mean?
Because all you need is a great idea that hooks in your audience. Now, we're there for the fucking ride, dude.
Right.
We'd love to keep going higher and higher and just laughing and laughing and laughing, because that's really what a comedy crowd is there for. It's like, hook me in and fucking keep me there.
Right.
Because like for the 20 minutes that you can make me laugh nonstop, every fucking problem I have is gone.
Yeah.
Like everything that I hate on the outside or love on the outside does not exist, because it's just you and me and this crowd. That's the best dynamic.
Right.
And I think like part of your self-esteem and all that is what will get you there.
Oh, for sure.
It has to be kind of like, you know, the self-doubt but like, okay, let me try this and that works, and let me try that and that works. It's cool. And that was, so one of the things that like made me re-fall in love with comedy was seeing Ari Shaffir do his special and then see him a week later do an hour and a half of just brand new fucking material.
Oh, that's cool.
And you just sit there going like, how does that mind work?
Right.
I wish I could understand. I wish I could because like Jew in and of itself is a masterclass on fucking comedy.
Yeah.
Like, who does the Old Testament for an entire like hour and a half?
Yeah.
Candlelit, by the way. Fucking candlelit.
That's pretty cool.
It was so cool. And then you just come to Addison Improv just like a couple of weeks later, and you're like, by the way, I got a cat or a dog, and just like goes into 15, 20 minutes of like how he fucking makes white people feel awkward while he's like making out with his dog. It's weird. It's funny. There's parts that he lost the crowd, which is okay because it's a Dallas crowd. Like, there's some of his stuff is just weird.
Yeah.
And then he was easily able to pivot back, but like you can see the guy is working out an entirely new hour. This is why it's like an hour and a half, because like 30 minutes of it is going to get shaved down and stuff. Yeah. But you're like, dude, this is so cool. That it made me re-fall in love with comedy. I was like, holy shit, this was so awesome to see.
Man. When I first started, I went up to the Improv and I was really eager, and I asked, Dan Soder was there that weekend, and I'm a big Dan Soder fan, and I went up to the manager. I was like, hey man, could I just like kind of linger, like if I bought a ticket for like one of the shows, would you mind if I like snuck in for all the shows and watched Dan just kind of like see what he changed about his sets? Like, 'cause I was so curious, if somebody's doing 6 or 8 shows over a weekend, how similar are each show? And that's part of the cool thing of being able to start hosting and working up there and stuff like that. You get to see that without having to ask the manager weird questions.
Did the manager let you do the Dan Soder thing?
I couldn't. I got to come one night, and I watched 2 of his shows one night, but I had other stuff that week. I didn't end up getting to come that weekend.
So I got to see Harlan Williams perform at Addison Improv. And I want to say I ran into Cheyenne, but maybe I ran into another comedian, so I'm sorry if I'm misremembering. But it was at the end of the show, and we were like talking, and he was like, dude, every single night has been a completely different hour.
Yeah.
He's like, nothing, not a fucking word was the same.
That blows my mind. Yeah.
And what I saw, what Harlan did, I was just like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Because he was doing his routine simultaneously weaving in and out of crowd work in just the most fucking elegant way you've ever seen. Like, nobody knew when he was fucking with the crowd or he was doing his material. It was that good. Cool. And then I got to see him at Skankfest again, and the same fucking flow, and just like, holy shit. And not a single word of his routine repeated ever.
That's crazy. I feel like he would almost get dismissed as like a goofy actor from the 90s or whatever. You know what I mean? That's maybe that I'm guilty of placing him like that in my head. I know he's a stand-up, and I know he does great. I've only heard from everybody else that he crushes. But that he's like Adam Ray. He does different stuff all the time. He's always doing a ton of crowd work and stuff like that. The guys that are just big energy, always loose, always doing something new, I can't even wrap my head around it.
Bro, Adam Ray's Dr. Phil is the funniest fucking thing in the world.
Yeah.
That shit's so good. That shit's so fucking good. No, like, Harlan was one of the rare treats of this year.
Yeah.
Getting to see him at the Addison Improv and getting to see him at Skankfest, just like, woof, highlight.
Yeah.
Because, like,
I've heard he's awesome. I still haven't seen
that's the thing, is like, everybody thinks of him as the half-baked guy and nothing else. But, like, please go see this man live.
A Rocket Man or something. Yeah.
just go see him live. Because, like, he is one of the best.
I've never heard anyone leaving his show disappointed.
No, it's not possible.
Yeah.
Because he is a master of pivot. He can just, like I said, elegantly just flow through material, fuck with the crowd, and just keep everybody, like, on their toes the entire time.
Yeah.
It was so funny when they were, I remember this like it was a highlight for me, when they were introducing him at Skankfest. They didn't, the guy that introduced him was like, oh, this is one of my favorite guys from fucking Fresno, California, Speedy Duda or some bullshit like that. And you could literally hear the entire crowd go, "Aw," because they thought Harlan was supposed to come out. And then he comes out and like, yeah, everybody's fucking yelling, cheering. Nice. I was like, that's what a fucking master comedian is. It's like that momentary, like everybody couldn't care less if Scooby-Doo or whatever the fuck the guy's name was going to be funny or not. They were just like, but we were here for something so much better. And then to get that instant, yay, he's like, it was so fucking awesome. I don't know. It's just like that type of power is only commanded by someone that's been probably doing it for decades.
Yeah, someone that builds the audience.
Yeah, someone that feels so comfortable on that stage, knowing that they can command a crowd, doesn't matter how big it is. I think that takes many, many years of work.
For sure, yeah.
I don't know, man. But comedy's a funny thing. So you're 15, that's 20 now. How confident are you about it? That you're going to be doing it this, weekend for the first time? Like, have you worked it out?
Well, that's the thing is once you get to open mics, it's a rare open mic that you can get 10 minutes like at Dusty's or whatever place you came and checked out. Most open mics are like 5 minutes at the most. Most of them are 4 or 5 minutes. So you work them out chunks at a time. I'm comfortable that I can fill the time, but I'm wanting to have a good 20 minutes. You know what I mean? I want to be able to do more than just fill the time. I know I can get there, but starting out strong and then finishing strong and making sure I have fun and that I'm loose in between and not just scripted in between is kind of where my head's at right now. Making sure that I have some topics. And that's advice you get early on. Make sure you start strong and finish strong. And make sure you got a good opener and closer. But that middle chunk, that middle 10 minutes or whatever I have, I want to make sure that I have some topics that like we were talking about, that I can pivot on.
Right, yeah, okay.
Be kind of loose. I'm not going to try to aim for crowd work. I don't do crowd work a lot or anything like that, but I want to be able to point out just kind of things in the moment if things come up and stuff like that, keep everybody engaged.
And do you think crowd work is important?
Not early. I think it's dangerous early. I think people get caught up thinking that they have more time than they have because they've filled time with crowd work before, you know what I mean? But there's going to be those moments where you got 12 people in an audience and nobody's engaging, and there's not.
Yeah, plus, I mean,
have a set.
Crowd work's kind of difficult if the crowd's not with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you ask a question and it's just like, no. And you're like, well, what do you do with that?
Yeah.
Like Darian, we talked about him for a quick second, but like Darian Irwin has a question he asked the crowd, and it's hilarious because I've seen him every single time ask it in the exact way where the person is caught off guard and doesn't know what to say. Mm-hmm. And then the entire punchline is his answer, like what Darian says afterwards. I won't ruin it because you should see it, like it's hilarious. But that's awesome crowd work for me because it's like he sets up the person for failure so that everybody else gets a laugh. And it's awesome because he doesn't do it all. Like, he doesn't do a lot of crowd work on purpose. It's like, but that one is specifically part of his routine. And he always picks the right person to fuck it up the way he needs it.
Nice.
It's awesome to see, dude. And that's like one of the things is like crowd work can be an intelligent and strategic tool, but I also think it may be a crutch that impedes growth.
For sure.
You can get great at it, but you don't have a solid, comedy routine to back up that crowd work like you were saying.
Right. It's almost impossible to work on at most open mics, too.
Right.
You can't do crowd work in front of 4 other comedians,
It's a dick move.
Yeah. So what do you do?
Yeah, like I do the same fucking thing you do.
Yeah.
What do you
get
mean?
Off? I'm doing my set. Get off.
Yeah, like you're fucking. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that shit that fucking at Dusty's though was hilarious. I keep remembering that day, and I'm like,
I was a bit surprised you came out. You came out to that one. You said it was a little bit of a drive for you and everything. I know Denton's not close to here. So
no, but I mean, I've been trying to kind of see you for a while now, and I was like, I got to find some opportunity, and like, I was like, okay, it's a random fucking night, and like, I talked to my wife, and I was like, here's the situation. She's like, okay, like, cool,
Yeah.
it doesn't fucking bother us in any way. Go for it. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to Denton.
Yeah, yeah.
It was fun. It was fun to kind of like be in what is not a traditional comedy club.
Yeah.
Because Hyenas is like down the street from me. So like I'm there 2 or 3 times a month at least.
Yeah, yeah.
I love going to that club. It's fun. It's cool to hang out over there.
Yeah.
Um,
Dusty's no stage, bars and arm's length.
although fucking amazing food at Dusty's, dude.
I was gonna
For
ask
bar
you.
food, it was
I thought you got the
damn
food,
good.
man. I'm a pretty picky eater, and I can get Dusty's down pretty easy.
So I'm not that picky of an eater. I love food.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy food, all types of like street food, all the way up to like high end fine dining.
Yeah.
But like for bar food, that was some really good bar food, man.
Yeah, it's
Dusty's
solid.
is like good shit, man.
They stay open till 2.
Like I'll eat there again for sure.
Yeah.
And if I'm in Denton and I'm like, I need a good burger, I'm going to fucking.
No, when I go up there, I usually stay for both mics that are up there. There's one at Bearded Monk and then one at Dusty's, and so I'm usually pretty hungry. And Dusty's is the go-to for food up there. Yeah, it's nice.
And like if you don't like, shout out to Dusty's for just being an awesome spot for a bunch of college kids to go and hang out. So like if you're single, just go to Dusty's and
yeah, I wish they would come up there, watch the open mic.
Like they will. Just give it time. No,
I'm
like,
there just like handing out flyers during class and stuff. I go to UNT.
so you're a student at UNT.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that we haven't actually touched upon that I'd love to, because I know where you were born.
Oh, yeah,
but there's like this entire period until 29 that we haven't talked at all about. So like, how long did you live in and around the Mesquite area? Was that like most of your like adolescence?
Yeah, yeah. When I grew up, I lived around Mesquite up until I was like 21. I went to the Air Force when I was 21. So I moved.
So thank you for your service.
No problem. That's something I joined the Air Force. It was cool, but I don't hate talking about it. I'm trying to get away from it. I want to be a comic. I don't want to be a Air Force guy or whatever, And I never wanted to be a cop growing up, never wanted to be a soldier. It makes me feel uptight that I even have service history or whatever. Which
why?
It's just in my head. It's just a weird hang up I have.
It's
where I'm like trying to loosen up with comedy and everything, and that's just one thing that makes me feel uptight. It's like a point towards being uptight. You know what I mean?
But I mean, you're in a rarefied class of humans that are selfless.
Yeah.
You've given yourself to something much higher.
Yeah.
Kinda. And I mean, you don't do it on a whim. It takes thought.
Yeah.
I know for, my friend's son just joined the Air Force, and he's going through basic right now.
Yeah.
Shout out Avitis.
Hey.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck, bud.
But, it was a lot of back and forth with him and his family and really making that decision. And because, there was no, you hear the stories of like, oh, it's either jail or the Army. It was nothing like that. I mean, he was a good kid, graduated high school, Eagle Scout, the whole fucking thing, like.
It might be jail or the Army. It's never jail or the Air Force, I don't think.
Probably, maybe. But like, it was not a situation where he was forced into it. It was a decision he made. And I feel like it was a decision you made too.
For sure, yeah.
And I feel like in this country, most men and women that joined the armed forces made that decision. And it's very, I don't know. I have a deep level of respect for the people that actually sign up and go through something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And the same goes for law enforcement and our paramedics and fire department. Like all of these people say that, my society is much more important than just myself.
Yeah.
And most people don't have that idea.
I still am definitely glad I did it. And I love the people I met while I was in it. And I'm still benefiting off of it. You obviously going to UNT using my GI Bill and stuff like that.
What are you studying?
Well, I was studying media arts, but now I don't have the best grades, so I'm going to pick something else.
Any idea what you want to do?
I'm going to take some stuff in entrepreneurship.
Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, going to school because they give you a housing allowance. So while I'm doing stand-up for a couple years, I can take some classes. The goal was to take some classes to learn more about like computer stuff with the media arts, maybe learn how to make flyers and learn more about like audio production, things like that. That you don't need a degree to be a comic, obviously, but I thought it would help with like podcast production, just little things like that. I was like, if I'm really making comedy the end goal, what would help me the most in that? But I got bad grades, so I'm picking entrepreneurship or something along those lines.
How many years did you do in the Air Force?
4.
Just 4 years.
Yeah.
Was it all local?
Yeah, I was in Abilene. I deployed once, but I was living in Abilene, lived in Texas the whole time.
So you deployed to Abilene?
No, I deployed to Afghanistan.
So you deployed to Afghanistan. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you did a tour in Afghanistan.
All A's, yeah.
Wow. So decorated vet.
Yeah. I don't know what that means exactly. I wasn't really in combat.
Okay.
I don't think.
Well, decorated vet usually is for a veteran that's kind of been deployed or seen time or action overseas.
I mean, everybody gets their decks or whatever, so I don't have like a Purple Heart or anything like that.
I wasn't saying anything like that.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I haven't done anything intense.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't saying that you had like a Purple Heart or a Medal of Valor or something like that. No,
that's why I get hung up on
I'm not misconstruing it, but
yeah.
You did go to Afghanistan. So
yeah.
Danger was there. You were in an active war zone.
Yes. I can tell you the first time they launched a mortar, there's like, so when you get there, it's pretty safe. But when you get there, there's like a hardened shelter. Right. It's safer than you think. Like it ends up being pretty chill for the job that I had. Like,
what was your job in the Air Force? Like when you got deployed, what were you doing?
Same thing. Same thing I did here. It was like it was called AGE, like aerospace ground equipment. So I worked on like generators and stuff. Okay. So all the equipment that a plane would use, I worked on all the plane's equipment. You know what I mean?
I got it. Okay, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So all the ancillary stuff that it needs to operate, you
exactly.
were like in charge or working on that stuff.
Yeah, even like a mobile AC unit, so they could like have AC without turning the plane on to run AC. Just simple stuff like that. A lot of generators and stuff. And then overseas, it was the same thing. Just working on generators, staying in a little sea hut. The first time a mortar attack came, they sound this alarm.
Okay.
And if you got your stuff on, you either hit the ground or you get in your sea hut if you're within like arm's reach or whatever the case is. I stopped staring at the porta potty because I was like a month in, and I've only pooped in regular toilets at this point. Like, because where we sleep is an actual building with real toilets. Where we work is porta potties and like this weird hardened shelter thing. And I hadn't pooped in the porta potties yet. And I had this internal bet. I was like, I bet I can make it all 4 months or however long I'm here without pooping in the porta potties. And I got there and I was sitting there debating, staring at the porta potties. And then the alarm went off and I had to just hit the dirt and like wait and hope I didn't get blown up before I had to poop.
Right.
And then it went off and I had to like run back inside. So I never got to poop that day. But that internal thing of like, I'm not even worried about blowing up right now. Like I had this other thing going on, like kind of eased the moment for me, I think. You know what I mean? Like I got bigger problems on my hands right now than mortar attacks. I got to take a dump right now. You know what I mean? There was more going on in my head that like kind of calmed the storm, I think.
That is the craziest fucking thing I've ever heard. It's like imminent death via a siren saying a mortar attack is coming in. And you're like, I hope I don't have to shit in this fucking porta potty.
I was glad I wasn't in the porta potty though, because then I would have been stuck. You're just stuck with the smells.
So is that thing fortified?
Not the porta potty, but the hardened shelter was. But the porta potty was outside the shelter.
That's my question. Is like, if you're in the porta potty and the siren comes on, do you stay in that thing, or are you supposed to hit the deck?
I think you stay. I still think the plastic enclosure would still be better for protecting you from shrapnel if there was some. But
okay.
Usually, there's this thing, dude. America's so fucking badass. We got this thing that like shoots mortars out of the sky. It looks like a laser, but it's like just bullets moving so fast.
Oh, yeah, like the cannon thing that's like...
Yeah, you seen that? Videos
I've seen videos of it, because there's like... They're on naval destroyers and shit too, right?
Yeah,
like
that's
they remotely fuck them up.
The Navy, yeah. It's called a C-RAM or whatever.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's just all you see is like a burst of light and just like, something blew up.
You're like not supposed to, but if you hear the thing during the day, then if you can find the C-RAM, you'll just see if it knocks the mortar out, you'll just see like kind of a poof, like a little poof of white cloud. But if it's nighttime, sometimes it's like kind of fun to poke your head out and watch it shoot it out of the sky, like fireworks almost.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like you get a mortar attack and then you see this red laser. It's like a Star Wars thing. It like shoots this red laser beam looking thing that blows it up. You get kind of a little explosion.
And it's like you can literally see the stream of it going in the air. And you're like, and you're like, fuck, that thing's crazy.
You feel... So like your first few weeks when you get there, you're like, oh, this is kind of crazy. I don't know how it's going to be because different world, you know what I mean? And you get there and you see that laser beam. You're like, I'm protected by America right now. It's a cool place.
How long were you in Afghanistan?
Like 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah, not long.
And then how long after that were you done with the armed forces?
I think I had a year left when I got back.
And you didn't want to re-up when you were done?
No, it was either 4 or 20 for me, and I was heavily leaning towards 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not the. It's too rigid. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And was there like a family history of being, in the armed forces, or were you the first, or like what kind of? What made you go into the Air Force?
Didn't feel like I had any other. It didn't feel like I was doing shit else with my life. You know what I mean? Like, just felt like whatever I was gonna do, I was either gonna go. I almost went to school. My parents were willing to pay for my tuition and stuff like that, and I even moved out to and like started to. I moved out. I was gonna stay with my uncle while I went to a school out in East Texas.
Okay.
And after I started to get moved in, I was like, I am wasting my parents' money, and we don't have the money to be wasting. I can't be doing this right now. Just internally, I know this isn't a good decision. So I dropped out of school, and then I think within a year, I ended up joining the Air Force without knowing that was going to be the move.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were your parents okay with that move?
Yeah. My dad, I think my dad, surprisingly, was like the worrier out of the two. I think he was like kind of always making sure I thought things through. You know what I mean? Like, whether it was a big purchase, like buying my first vehicle or whatever, or joining the military, I think he was like, are you sure you thought this through? Are you sure you thought about this and this is the move you want to make? And I told him dropping out of school, it worried him because I was like, I didn't have much to say other than I don't feel like this is the right move. And you think he would be happy that I wasn't about to blow all their money on tuition for something I probably wasn't going to finish if I would have started it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But he was pretty hesitant on me not going to school. But yeah.
Well, I mean, you found your way back.
Yeah.
You got a bachelor's degree. Now you're working on some, kind of like, I don't think you're trying to get a degree right now, right? You're just trying to like learn a bunch of skills that you think can be applied towards your comedy career.
Exactly.
Okay. See, that's the thing, man.
I have the freedom, and no other job provides the same amount of flexibility. If it works out and I can maximize that GI Bill, nothing else provides the same amount of flexibility where I can, whatever the opposite of God forbid is, if God blessed me enough to get like a road gig on a weekend or something I had to take off out of nowhere, I'd have that flexibility. With a job, you'd have to ask off a couple weeks in advance and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I mean, look, you served in the military. You should reap the benefits that are allotted to you.
Yeah.
Why not?
Feels good. Like, feels guilty a lot of times.
Why?
You know what I mean?
What's the guilt?
I don't know.
What are you doing
man.
wrong?
No, literally nothing. And I know.
So they're asking you to be enrolled in school.
I actually got fucked this semester with that too, so I'm not getting paid. But that's a whole nother thing. But even still, there's a lot of stipulations you got to work where you're taking so many hours or whatever.
Okay.
And I got trapped into taking half-time this semester, so I won't get paid. But that's a whole nother thing. But that's still blessed to be able to go to school for free, but I just won't get paid this semester.
But like next semester, you can get enough classes and you would get paid?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just gotta get things fixed for next semester. Maybe transferring back to Texas State.
Really?
They got easier programs there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so interesting though. Like, you got kind of like this. It's not a loophole. It's not great. It's like they're literally telling you what to do to.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'll do this.
I even told buddies, because they'll send you to a class to teach you how to use your GI Bill before you get out. And I was encouraging all my buddies, like, you got to take this class. You'll get out of work for 2 days, get to wear civilian clothes, and they'll treat you like a normal person. It's to get you acclimated, and they'll tell you how to maximize your GI Bill and stuff like that, because it's kind of difficult to navigate.
I know very little bit about like the Veterans Administration with the insurance and stuff. And it's a tricky system to learn.
Yeah.
But once you do learn that system, I mean, man, vets have a lot of benefits that come to them.
Yeah.
It's just nobody really tells them about it.
Yeah.
I've seen it myself, and you're like, but why aren't they applying for this, and this? They qualify for it.
Yeah.
And then they do eventually get a good social worker that knows this stuff and tells them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get the benefits, but they're like, why for so many years was nobody telling? Why wasn't I just automatically given this?
Yeah.
And it's elderly vets. Like, it's not the guy that just got out. It's the guy that, was in fucking Vietnam or some shit like that. And like, they're in their 70s. And it should just like auto kick in, like,
Right.
Like, I fucking did the time, goddammit. It was like, it was war, you know? These are decorated vets you're talking about, like, that actually have Purple Hearts and Medal of Valors and shit like that. And you're like, why aren't they getting the best goddamn treatment?
Right.
You asked them to give up their life. They made it somehow. Why aren't you treating them like fucking royalty?
Yeah, the VA is an awful place, dude.
It was,
I mean,
and I think
sure
they're
it's
getting
great,
better. They're trying to get a lot better. I'm not gonna blame the VA solely for it. I understand, just like any other massive system that has prehistoric systems involved, it takes a long time to update these systems,
for sure,
to modernize them. And like the VA is such a massive system. Think about it. It's all 50 states. It's people from all walks of life that need a lifetime of care in a lot of situations. And it's even understandable that a lot of shit goes through the cracks and things just don't get done properly.
For sure. Yeah.
Dude, look at the DMV. I'm not even saying the VA. I'm talking about, it is the backbone of this country. You have to have a functioning DMV because all of us drive or have to have ID to get anywhere here.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, that shit's so stupid. It works horrible.
Yeah.
Like, Texas has probably the worst system I've ever seen.
Yeah, I was up there like last week.
You can't do a walk-in. You have to try to make an appointment, and then you have to wake up like 7 o'clock in the morning to see what's allotted that day, and it doesn't tell you all over the surrounding area. No, it's like put in zip codes and it's like a lottery and see what happens. Like, what the fuck system is that?
Yeah.
Really? Like, I have to play a lottery to get a fucking driver's license?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I could have gotten an appointment for October of 2025.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, sure. 2 years. I don't need a fucking driver's license. But that's the thing, is like these systems suck. And and people like looking from the outside in think like, why can't they just update the shit? And then you're like, oh, okay. It's way more fucking complicated than people really think it is.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like the human part of it. It's hard to train people new shit.
Right.
They're going to fuck it up.
Yeah, for sure.
So bad.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like, you've had jobs, right?
Barely. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've had to have at least had 1 or 2 jobs. Like, could you imagine?
I think I've had at least like a dozen. Yeah.
And some of them have to have been for like a big company that had a couple of hundred employees, if not thousands.
Yeah.
Can you imagine retraining that many people on a new system?
Yeah.
The failure rate would be just like 80%.
Yeah, it feels like a lost cause at this point. It's a nightmare anytime you walk in, though.
And that's what I think a lot of people think that are trying to like revamp the healthcare system or work on kind of like streamlining the VA. They're like, this is hopeless.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're like, until all of these people retire out and then we can hire a new batch of people that know what the internet is, we can't fix this shit.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. A lot of it's talking out of my ass, but I think a lot of it is true too.
Yeah.
So you do the Air Force, you get out, you get, a degree, and then are you still in Dallas at this time, or are you moving around to different places? Like, are you married yet?
At that point, that was bouncing around. By the time I got my degree, that was right after I got married. I got married a year and a half after I got back from the Air Force.
And you still haven't done any stage time yet, right? Like,
right.
Stand-up comedy is not something that you're actively thinking about pursuing yet?
Right. That in 2019, a lot happened in 2019. That was like I don't say I started comedy until I started actually doing open mics. That first time at Kill Tony didn't really count for me.
Okay.
It wasn't until a year and a half after that, when I got back to Dallas, that I started comedy.
And that's 2019? Or is that 2021 now?
2021 is when I actually started doing mics, like after the pandemic started breezing over and stuff.
In Texas, it started breezing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. We were, the rest of the country, that's kind of the reason I moved to Texas. I was like, fucking can't take this shit anymore.
Yeah.
So, that was like, we moved in 2022. Yeah, we moved in 2022.
So I've never been to LA. Have you been to the Comedy Store?
I have been to the Comedy Store. It's an awesome fucking club.
I bet.
The Laugh Factory is awesome. The Comedy Store is awesome. And
you mentioned the Ice House too. You got out there?
I've been there, but it's been a long time since I've been to the Ice House. I've been to the Haha a couple of times. I actually went to the Haha during the pandemic when they were doing like all these outdoor shows.
Yeah.
Because they were one of the only places that had like this outdoor terrace that they converted into a seating area. Very limited again, but I mean, we were so hungry for any type of entertainment in California. You're like, okay, fuck it, I'll wear a mask outdoors.
Right.
It was ridiculous. It's like, oh, I can pull it down, take a swig of my drink, and then pull it back. I'm like, what the fuck is the point?
Yeah.
Do they not understand how fucking bacteria works or air? Whatever. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Pointless. But yeah, no. My favorite probably place to see comedy was New York more than California, to be honest.
Oh man.
I loved fucking going to New York City and catching a late comedy show.
Yeah.
Gotham Comedy Club was one of my favorite places to see comedy.
Mm-hmm.
It was an awesome venue. I don't know. I love New York's comedy scene.
Yeah. I'd love to be there just from seeing it on Comedy Central.
And I haven't been there to a comedy show post-pandemic, but pre-pandemic, dude, my wife and I would love going to New York at least 2 or 3 times a year, and we'd always catch a comedy show there.
Yeah.
We love live comedy. It's just fun.
Yeah.
There's like a vibe you got from New York City, and it was cool because like you'd get out and it's like 1 a.m. and there's still so much to do in New York because it's fucking New York.
Yeah.
You don't get that in Dallas because like once you're done with the comedy show, everything's shut down.
I know, man.
Like there is no, hey, let's go get a late night bite or, fucking go to a bar or something. Because like some bars are open till like 4 in New York.
Mm-hmm.
You can catch like a late night jazz club at like 2 o'clock in the morning, just like somebody awesome is playing.
Yeah, that'd be great. That was one thing about Austin. Austin has a little bit more of that than Dallas. I've never been to New York though.
Austin's working on that. I think Austin needs to fucking work on its food scene. Because their late night food scene is abysmal.
Yeah, I'm about tired of everybody recommending a food truck to me, dude. Yeah, I don't want to eat from a truck without a sink. And, like, it's disgusting.
Thank you. Fucking thank you. Although, like, during the day, there's some amazing fucking food to be had.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a spot called Valhalla over there. It's a rock and roll, like, fucking heavy metal club.
Yeah.
The second floor of that place, and shout out to Mike Eaton and Darian Irwin for taking me to this place, has, like, this, literally, it's a hole in the wall, where they make pasta from scratch. Some of the best fucking pasta I've ever had.
Mm.
And the second floor of a rock club playing pool.
That's
like,
cool.
It's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
But there's really good food scenes there, but like really late night food scenes, nobody has a fucking candle to hold to California, Los Angeles in particular, and New York City.
Mm.
They have some of the best food in the middle of the night, dude. Like such good food.
It's when you need it too.
It's the best time to eat when you're kind of like fucked up and you've had a great evening and you want like greasy, delicious, or you want like a good curry or you want fucking really good Chinese like noodle soup or something. New York's the spot for that. LA's the spot for that. Like Austin needs to work on that shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Like somebody needs to open a really good kebab spot over there. Like that's open late night that just looks like, wrapped kebabs with like the good spices. You'd sell out all day, every day. I don't know, but like, that's why I like New York's comedy scene the most, because like the city also had this fucking vibe and feel to it that continued past just the comedy show.
Yeah,
there's so much going before, during, and after.
I'm definitely not a New York from what I know of it. I've never been there, but I'm kind of a homebody. Like the busyness of it doesn't really appeal to me and everything. But the comedy scene outweighs everything. So I was really trying to convince my wife before we moved back to Dallas this last time. I was like, is there any way I can get you to New York? Like, is there any way we can make that happen? Like,
that'd be interesting.
She's even more opposed to I am than the city, and she doesn't have the comedy scene to win her over. So, and we've also never been there. I should probably visit before we plan on making a move. But
I think you're gonna hate it over there.
That's what I would anticipate. It'd be cool though.
I love it over
to
there.
Get somewhere outside of Texas. This is all I know. You know what I mean? Need to broaden my horizons, have new material, even.
Yeah, but oh man, New York is
just a mess.
Look, man, people don't understand how fucking clean Dallas is. It's ridiculous. I'm not kidding when I say, like, it's probably the cleanest city I've ever lived in.
Really?
Yeah, it's ridiculous how clean this place is.
I came up naturally with some jokes about how gross Austin is by the time I got back here, but I didn't realize it was really that much of a
oh my God
difference.
I don't care. Take Beverly Hills, take Manhattan. The streets are not as clean as Dallas is.
Man.
I'm not kidding when I say this. And there's a few factors that play into it. A, it's not that many people live here compared to New York City and Los Angeles.
Right.
B, it's not the biggest tourist destination like those two places. Or Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Austin is a huge tourist destination because the music and comedy.
I know, that's what sucks is Dallas is so much bigger and we don't really have anything to pull you to.
It's fine. Leave it the fuck alone, dude. Have something pristine and beautiful. And also, it's the people in Dallas take great pride in their city. People that live in Dallas love the fact that they live in Dallas.
You've noticed that? How long have you been here?
Year and a half now, a little less than that. July of last year is when we moved here.
I am hearing you say that because I care a lot about Dallas. That's like
dude, I care about Dallas, and it was instantaneous. Like, what's the best way of describing? Like, when I would see people throw trash out their cars in LA, I wouldn't think twice about it because fucking it's dirty. It's LA. Everybody does it. Here, if I ever see somebody do that, I almost want to fucking pull them over and kick their ass. I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
I embarrassed my wife because I got out of my truck to throw somebody's beer can back at their car. There's some dude driving like an asshole in front of me in Mesquite in my hometown. And so I could have ended up knowing him.
And it's not just Dallas. I mean, like the city of Dallas. Like when we first moved here, we lived in Louisville. Most of Louisville is just as clean.
Yeah.
My best friend lives in Frisco. Frisco is fucking pristine.
Damn.
I mean, all of in and around like the Dallas area, the cities that take pride in having nice places like Plano. Go to Legacy Boulevard, dude.
Oh, Plano.
Thousands of people walk through there all day, every day. But I also see maybe 15 to 20 different people that are employed by that place to continually clean that place.
That's cool.
And clean up the trash. And like that takes a place that cares.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's, and it's not just the business owners or the city. It's all of us as a community like where we live and like to keep it the way it is.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So like, yeah, why I was saying that is why you would hate New York. It's just fucking filthy.
Yeah.
And if you're not okay with that, you're never, ever going to be okay with that. And I love that shit, to be completely honest with you, because out of that filth is where the greatest shit comes from. The best music, the best art, the best literature. It doesn't come from pristine places in most cases. It comes from the dirtiness.
Yeah.
You need that because you need that constant reminder. That's what Austin gives me. Like that constant reminder that failure is just around the corner to make you fucking work a little bit harder. You can't create in this beauty that is like, I mean, a lot of guys do, but like, it's so fucking nice here.
Yeah.
It's so pretty.
Dallas it's like, and it's built pretty.
Yes, it is. And except for the weather, dude, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Like the weather just fucking kills it so bad.
Yeah.
4 months of just the worst heat.
Oh yeah, dude. Like I was telling you when I got here, the car AC went out. I was driving up to Denton and stuff.
Yeah.
Ice pack on my neck going to school.
People don't.
Luckily, we just got rid of that car. But.
People don't understand like what hot is.
Yeah.
Until it's 115 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And you're just like, ugh.
And you're sitting in traffic and nowhere to go.
And then it's like 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. at night, and it's still 98
degrees
outside, and it's like the concrete's still boiling hot.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, it's here to stay.
You're like sweating, taking your dog out at midnight. Yeah.
Yeah, literally. And then out of nowhere, just 3 months into it, it'll just rain torrentially for 2 days straight. And you're like, oh, I think it's over. And then it's like, nope. No, it's going to be 108 degrees with 97 degrees humidity, 97% humidity for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Enjoy. Yeah. And I'm saying this to deter people from moving to this wonderful, amazing place that I love so much because I don't want you guys to come here. Just leave it alone, dude. It's cool that we don't have people continually moving to Dallas. Go to Austin. Go to other places.
Houston's big.
Yeah, come visit us once in a while. But
I actually like San Antonio a lot. I wish I would have went to San Antonio more when I was living in Austin.
I heard San Antonio's got a pretty cool comedy scene going on too.
It's growing.
Yeah,
they're getting more stuff going on down there. Yeah.
Well, like Austin's kind of become this hub, and then people just want to go north and south in Texas because Texas is massive, and you can get really like polarizing views. Like Houston's way different than Dallas.
Yeah.
You have to admit it. Like there's a different culture in Houston compared to the Dallas culture.
I think Austin, Dallas, and Houston are way different.
So is San Antonio.
And I feel like maybe Dallas is the most uptight. Maybe that's just like a theme that I have in my head right now. But
well, we are the hoity-toity.
Yeah.
We're fucking assholes.
exactly.
No, I'm kidding, but like, yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Houston has like,
Houston's fun.
Maybe it's because I've been like driven through Dallas a lot, so I kind of ignore it. But the homes and stuff in Houston, like you drive through a nice neighborhood in Houston, it's pretty mind-boggling, dude.
So, do you do a podcast yet?
No, I don't. And you talked earlier about like Kill Tony is like more of a production than a podcast. I do want to do something creative eventually, and a podcast is definitely up my alley because I've always been interested in just talking to people that I'm interested in. But something a little bit more creative sparks my interest too. Like
what would you have in mind?
Even something like a game show, but hopefully not as corny as a typical game show. Something that would incorporate a little bit more loose conversation like a podcast. But there's a lot of different routes. Like eventually I want to start
stand-ups.
Yeah.
That shit would be hilarious.
Something, but
like
then
a spin wheel and something.
That stuff gets real corny real quick, so I might stay away from all that. But something to just make it a fun format that I could redo once a month or whatever, Something like that's always interesting. I don't know.
Okay.
A podcast is probably easier to pull off and something I'm definitely interested in doing as well, though. Like, if I could ever get Nate Bargatze on to talk to myself, that'd be a great thing, too. So,
I mean, the way I look at it is I have goals and dreams of certain people that I want to speak with.
Yeah.
And I'm starting with a niche, which is comedians.
mm-hmm.
And that will be forever part of this journey, this endeavor that I've taken on. But
Right.
at some point in the future, if it does grow to that point, I would like to invite other guests, other people that do other things that just I'm genuinely curious about. Like I was on a flight a few weeks ago and I met a woman who lives in Dallas who's a master sommelier. And there's like 250 of them in the entire world.
Whoa.
I'm fascinated.
Yeah.
I can't wait to sit down and talk to her about all of that.
Right.
That's so cool to me. But I also understand that I need to work on building something before I can get to Nate Bargatze or Mark Norman or Tim Dillon or any of these names. People I've actually reached out to. I know they're not going to do my podcast. You know what? If you don't put it out in the universe, then you're never going to know.
Yeah.
Why not? It's worth a try.
Yeah.
And you never know what happens. But it's like that's my bigger goal and dream is that I'm just going to continue doing this because I have so much fun with this.
Yeah.
And try to get better at this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's the goal. It's like maybe I shouldn't have Nate on my podcast yet because I'm not that good of an interviewer.
Yeah, it's probably same.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, use me as your kind of like getting yourself being better as a person being interviewed.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll try to be a better interviewer.
Yeah.
And hopefully one day we both get to the Nate Bargatzes of the world and be like, oh fuck yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Like I know how to, carry a conversation better, or like I know how to talk about my, time in the Air Force or this or that better because I've done it a few more times than the first time being like a really huge podcast.
Yeah.
I guess I look at it that way is like we can all help each other grow.
Yeah.
And it'll be fun.
Try to make it to Nate land. That's what we're doing.
There you go. Sorry, Nate, we keep mentioning you, but you're just that good of a comedian. And you're rarefied earth because like there aren't many clean comedians that are that good.
Yeah.
There's almost no clean comedians outside of him, Jim Gaffigan. Who else is clean?
There's a dude that I like a lot that's a pretty clean comic. I think he's all clean. Josh Sneed. He's a dude from, I think, Ohio, but I haven't seen him live. He's a dude I've been following for a long time. I'm going to try to see him in Arkansas early next year.
Tom Papa's pretty clean too, right?
I don't know. I don't know if he's a guy that you just think is clean and he's not, or if he actually is clean. I don't know a lot of Tom Papa stuff. But John Mulaney has a joke about like a lot of people think I'm clean, but I'm not.
No, but Mulaney's not clean at all.
Yeah.
No, but I almost feel like Papa's like on the borderline of clean.
Yeah.
kind of like Gabriel Iglesias. They're not clean, but
yeah,
very close to it, where he gets away with it.
I feel like Tom Papa is, but like I can't pin it down.
Yeah, I can't pin it down either. I just don't. He doesn't strike me as a guy that says fuck a lot.
Yeah.
I just want to put it out there. Like, he doesn't.
Yeah.
The guy was in a suit for his last special, and he fucking murdered that special. But he was wearing like a tie, the whole deal, like wonderful dress, like dressed to the T.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like he's clean. But I know for sure Nate and Jim are like really clean comedians.
If Tom Papa's clean, I know he's in a super raunchy cartoon. I was just looking up like Friday the 13th, like horror movie stuff, like seeing what there was to watch for me and my wife. And there was a thing that I came across called it's about a luchador comic, and it's a movie about a luchador cartoon.
What's a luchador?
Am I saying the right thing? Like a Mexican wrestler with like a mask on, like a
Lucha Libre? Is that what they're called?
Maybe.
I have
not?
I don't know.
You know what
either.
I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
A Rey Mysterio looking dude. You know,
like Nacho Libre.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sorry to the Mexican wrestling everybody.
Mexican wrestler with a mask on type thing.
Sorry,
it's one of those. A luchador. Is that what it said?
I have no idea if that's the right word for it.
But yeah, it's Tom Papa playing either either one of those guys or somebody in that show. I couldn't ever figure out who Tom Papa was, but it's the raunchiest show I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
an animated show?
Yeah. It's Rob Zombie and Tom Papa like came together to write this thing. And I watched like half of it before we had to like go or
I've seen a bunch of Rob Zombie's like horror films.
Mm-hmm.
I love them. They're so over the top. They're so fucking. It's like watching them as an adult. They don't scare me at all. You're just like, this is so fun.
Yeah.
And every time he puts his wife in it, and she almost always ends up like surviving or getting killed or something like that. But like he had like a thing about putting his wife in all of his horror movies. It was funny.
She's in this movie too. This animated thing.
Of course. But like, I don't know. His horror movies were funny horror movies for me.
Yeah.
They never scared me. They were just cool.
I never got into. I hate blood and like gory stuff. I hate stuff like that. Like blood is a
no for you.
Yeah. Made me faint. Maybe I don't know.
And you joined the Air Force.
I know, dude.
Where that's like a possibility. It's just like could happen.
It's a slight possibility. You're more likely to get trapped between the hardened shelter and trying to take a shit. That's what's more likely to happen in there.
He's still talking about this.
That was the most trauma. It was that easy. That was the most traumatizing thing.
That's your PTSD from the fucking Afghanistan.
Yeah. Constipation is my PTSD.
It's like I got IBS from fucking Afghanistan.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, that's not bad. I mean, that's not bad. You got away with treatable fucking problem.
Yeah, if that's the worst, and I can come back to the States and get a laxative down, I'm all good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Smooth.
So wait, are you gonna finish that raunchy show? What made it so fucking raunchy? The Tom Papa show.
Oh, I forget what it was even about, but it was a lot of it was aiming for raunchy. It was typical Rob Zombie, over the top type stuff, you know what I mean?
Okay.
But Rob Zombie and Tom Papa were the writers. But I couldn't tell which character Tom Papa was the whole time. I didn't know what he was voicing. But
so he was a writer and voicing.
Yeah. So that made me hang up. I was like, I'm not sure if Tom Papa is that clean, but his stand-up might be clean. I'm not sure.
Might be. I don't know. Yeah. But like, I feel like, if you do one thing one way, doesn't mean it has to translate the same way to another art form.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
for sure. Yeah.
Kind of like, who's a good example of this? Jerry Seinfeld. Like the Seinfeld show.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't say shit about him as a comedian. He's so much funnier on the stage.
Yeah.
And he does, use profanity, and he's hilarious on stage. The same thing with, I'm spacing on names, but Jay Leno. He's another guy. Like, if you know him only from The Tonight Show, where he's very clean cut, like everybody's dad or everybody's uncle for like late night for fucking 20 years. But then you see him on stage, and he's a hilarious comedian, dude. And he's got like some really funny shit, but he doesn't try to be clean on stage. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
Jim Carrey's the same way. Robin Williams is the same way. Like all these people that you knew as like funny, Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah.
You should see his special.
I know
when
Patton
he talks
Oswalt.
about eating pussy, like fucking A, dude. That's Robin Williams. Just like, it's one of the funniest fucking things in the world.
Yeah. Bob Saget being super gross.
Thank you. Yeah, I kept fucking spacing on Bob Saget's name. Like, and it shouldn't be that way, Like, these people may play something on TV, or the exact opposite, like when it's a cartoon, have so much more creative freedom that they can express a completely different dark side of themselves. Right. Plus, it's like you're with Rob Zombie. How clean are you going to try to be?
I heard Patton Oswalt got a lot of that after King of Queens. He thought, or everybody that was coming to his shows thought that they were going to get Spence from King of Queens, like this kind of dorky, cutesy, whatever character, and he was doing his whatever darker material. I don't know if he gets political or whatever the case, but he wasn't as affable as he was on TV.
I don't actually remember him from King of Queens. I only remember him as a stand-up comedian, and I've loved him as a stand-up because I thought his shit was always funny.
Yeah.
Now that because I never watched King of Queens, it was just.
Oh, really? That's like one of my favorite go-to-bed shows. Like it beats Friends for me there.
I was never a sitcom person, to be honest with you.
Really?
I never got into them. They just bored the shit out of me.
Yeah, most are pretty lame. I will give you that. Like, Everybody Loves Raymond and King of Queens are still great to me, though.
I've seen a few episodes of all of those shows.
Right,
my love of sitcoms ended with fucking Steve Urkel. After that, there was this whole period of just like fucking reality TV. That's all we got for years and years. And then when sitcoms kind of like made their triumphant return, I was no longer interested in them.
Yeah.
And it just stayed that way. Like,
do you like It's Always Sunny at all?
No.
Really? Oh man, I love that show so much.
Never got into The Office. Couldn't watch either the UK one or the American one.
I wish I could get into the UK one pretty bad, and I
couldn't get into either of them. I was like, you can't. I am like, I understand Steve Carell's fucking hilarious, but fuck, this is boring.
Damn.
Sorry, man. It was just so boring for me.
I love it. We were watching The Office the other day, me and my wife.
I wish I could get into these things. Yeah. I wish, but like almost always, instead of watching something like that, I would find myself watching like a fucking gazelle getting murdered. And I was like, this is awesome. Let me watch nature for like 2 hours. Like, I don't know. I would veer into weird paths.
Something more real than Dwight.
I love documentaries. I love fucking stand-up comedy. There's like, I don't know, a different connection to it. But not sitcoms. Good dramas I love. Like The Sopranos was good. The Wire was awesome. Fucking The Shield was great. Game of Thrones. That stuff was great to watch because there was a lot of fantasy or there was really good writing involved.
Yeah.
But I thought, for me, sitcoms always took the same exact fucking premise and just reused it over and over and over again. It's like, enough of the same. I'm gonna fall in love with you, and you're gonna fall out of love with me, and then this is gonna happen. Thing. And then fucking always there's a Halloween special and a Christmas special and an Easter special, and you're like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Like, who cares? It's all the same shit.
Right.
And for me, it was like, I don't want to sound rude in any way, but I was like, I can either remain mindless and allow my brain to kind of vegetate on this shit.
Yeah.
Or I can try and learn something. And I would always veer. And I'm not saying that I learned anything from a nature documentary, but for me, it was more interesting than that. At least it taught me to fucking be afraid of nature.
It's at least something that's actually happening, not like a made up situation.
Like what I've learned from nature documentaries is that like, hey man, I never want to be around a honey badger. Those motherfuckers scare the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Because like I see an entire group of lions running away from a honey badger. I'm like, oh shit. But like you never would know that if you didn't spend the time to kind of learn about, these crazy animals or any of the cool things that like, it's fun to learn. I don't know. I guess in that sense, that's where I'd like to put my time.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I kind of shy away from fiction. Like I could never read a fiction book. Like if I'm not a big reader, but if I'm reading, I can't read just fantasy or something. It's got to be an autobiography of somebody that I admire or
How come you don't like Steve Martin? Like as a stand-up, or like his movies, or
the only
anything?
thing I've seen of his stand-up is like, yeah, neither one. But the movie, like The Jerk and stuff, it's just not really my time period. Like, just the movie doesn't really grab me. The story doesn't get me involved very early. And his stand-up, the only thing I've seen is clips. I haven't really seen his actual stand-up. So the stuff that I've seen of him wearing like a bow on his head and doing like the physical stuff, it's like a big turnoff for me. I don't like it at all.
I mean, if you kind of like look at the history of comedy, the time that they were doing what they were doing,
yeah,
that was the breakout shit. That was the bleeding edge. That was kind of going against the narrative of what was supposed to be fucking knock jokes and shit.
Right. And he's doing, I get that at some point it was something that I would have liked that probably would have been more like I love Zach Galifianakis. He was probably to some extent Zach Galifianakis to a lot of people, where he was doing like weird shit on stage that was kind of attention grabbing and like different than what everybody else was doing. It was probably innovative. But whatever it is, I'm not even saying he sucks. I would say he sucks, and it would be wrong of me to say that. But just out of the ease of the conversation, I'd be like, Steve Martin sucks. I would probably say that. But I know I'm wrong, just in the same way I would say Kobe Bryant sucks. I'm not a Kobe Bryant fan, but Kobe Bryant definitely doesn't suck. He's definitely good at basketball, just like I would acknowledge Steve Martin. He's definitely good at comedy. I get it. It's just not it doesn't resonate with me. Okay. And I like that it doesn't. I like that I can finally find somebody that I can be like cilantro. I said I was a picky eater. There's very few things that I know I don't like. I know I don't like cilantro. I know I don't like Steve Martin. And I'm pretty glad that I know that, you know?
Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, as far as the arts, you don't have to love everybody or hate everybody that everybody else loves or hates. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's the whole point of comedy. It's so wide and varied that you don't have to like Steve Martin. You don't have to like Eddie Murphy. You don't have to like any of those people.
He's probably also he's definitely 100 times funnier than I am. So I have like nothing to compare, but I'm happy that I have a taste in comedy.
Like, I'll put it to you this way: like, George Carlin is considered one of the greatest stand-up comedians ever by a lot of people. But his best work right now shown to, I don't know, 20-year-olds, they probably wouldn't get it, wouldn't like it, because it's not relevant right now. It doesn't none of it makes sense to the kids watching it today, and they're gonna just be like, the fuck is this old guy talking about?
Yeah.
But for us who came up in an era that the internet wasn't actually a thing and then it became something, all of that shit was fucking hilarious. And it's still hilarious to us. But that's the whole point of it, is like, good comedy is supposed to kill what was good comedy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's supposed to continually...
It's supposed to top it, yeah.
It's supposed to be topical. It's supposed to be of the time, and it's supposed to be cutting edge. Same way Galifianakis probably doesn't translate to a lot of kids today.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And that's sad.
Yeah.
Because he's not like an old comedian by any stretch of the imagination, but his stuff was so far out there that it only worked for that small period of time.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Same way Jim Carrey doesn't work for a lot of people now, but like for those of us that like Dumb and Dumber and The Mask and shit, like, he's fucking hilarious.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things, but I like Steve Martin. But I'm also a fan of comedy in its entirety.
Yeah.
Even back to like the vaudeville days and shit. Like, I think comedy was fucking always around and always part of humanity.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing to me, because like I question these things of like, why did we have music? Why do we have art? Why are these things not not just emotional things, but they are requirements of life and a society moving forward? For some reason, since the dawn of mankind, these things have existed with us.
Yeah.
Comedy is one of those things.
Yeah.
So I'm genuinely fascinated at the idea of how far back it goes and why it's always existed.
Yeah.
Kind of just the same way music has always existed and rhythm has always been there.
Right. I see that because comedy feels like such a fragile thing that doesn't really have to exist, but it feels like it has to exist at the same time. You know what I mean? Like it's always going to find a way.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like many have tried to suppress it, just like suppressing different arts, like paintings and written works of literature have been suppressed. Comedy has been one of those things that has been time and time again been under attack in various forms.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're just like, oh, I wonder why there's a concerted effort to screw with the arts, whereas I look at it as pivotal to human existence.
Yeah, yeah, I got you.
You know what I mean? Like that's the way I look at it.
Right, right.
Like I probably hold the arts on a higher regard than I hold sports, but I completely understand fundamentally why sports exist.
Yeah.
They make so much sense because we are all competitive by nature.
It has an obvious place.
Yeah, like it makes so much sense that we have so many sports and so many varying levels, and it's global. Like every single culture in the world has sports.
Yeah.
It's cool, and I get why it exists.
Yeah.
Not so much on the arts, but I'm so fascinated why they do exist.
Right, right.
And like it's cool. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that old stuff. I want to do more research on like Lenny Bruce, stuff like that, just the big names that that came up and everything. But I'm also fine with missing out on who I've missed out on. I know Richard Pryor isn't going to be as big of a deal to me as he is to everybody else. And I know that strikes chords with people, and I'm fine with it now. I'm fine with it now.
Striking a chord, man.
Richard Pryor is not my guy. I can't say I would be lying to you if I said I loved Richard Pryor. I love Richard Pryor for being like
Have you watched any of his stuff?
Nah, not really. I've seen like
watch Live on the Sunset Strip. And then see if your thought of him changes.
Right.
The same way I can tell someone watch Eddie Murphy's Raw or Delirious, either one of them today, and tell me you don't think Eddie Murphy's a fucking hilarious comedian.
I do love Eddie Murphy, but he still doesn't. Eddie Murphy, I would never say Eddie Murphy's one of my favorite comics or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Oh,
it would be.
I mean, he's one of the first comedians that introduced me to stand-up. Like seeing Delirious,
and
then seeing Raw was just like one of the first two comedy albums that. And maybe there is a sense of nostalgia that I hold in high regard, but I have told friends to like, hey, get introduced to this and tell me if you like it. And almost always the answer is, dude, that's so fucking funny.
It's still cool to go back and watch Delirious, like to go back and watch old Eddie Murphy. It's still fun. I got like when I went to Afghanistan, they had like this hard drive down there, and they had like all the Comedy Central presents. It was just like a collection that everybody would like download all their videos to and everything.
Okay.
So I have like a shit ton of old Comedy Central on there. So I have like some old Eddie Murphy sets and stuff like that on there with all the Comedy Central era stuff. But still, something about just knowing it's a little older, knowing it's like I'm a Cowboys fan, but I can't act like I'm pumped that they won Super Bowls in the early 90s. You know what I mean? That missed me. I'm not really a fan of their success. I haven't witnessed it. It's a weird comparison, I guess, but I like Eddie Murphy. I appreciate Richard Pryor, but I can't act like I'm just like Dave Attell. I can't act like I'm in the core of their fan base. That's all I'm saying. I'm not in the core of their fan base. I would feel disingenuous if I said that I was.
Well, I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
Again, there's no reason to feel like you have to be on some sort of a bandwagon to fit in. That's fucking worse than, anything else.
Yeah.
Don't pretend.
There are those names in comedy where it's like, you got to know everybody. You know what I mean? Like, you got to feel like you're in with all the hot names in comedy and stuff. Like, you got to know who.
But that's bullshit in and of itself.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any fucking sense either. I look at myself as a person that has spent a lot of time appreciating comedy, whereas stand-up comedy in general is meant for like a casual audience.
Yeah.
Most people don't fucking care who Richard Pryor is because they're not going to see him ever.
Yeah, that's
you kind of have to hunt out that kind of stuff because you admire it or you're genuinely interested in it. But like for everybody else, just whatever on Netflix, you see the latest comedy special by Tom Segura or Nate Bargatze or whoever it is, Dave Chappelle, and you're like, haha, that's fucking hilarious. You laugh for an hour, move on with your life. That's the general use case of stand-up comedy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's the way it's supposed to be. So, like, even as a comedian, that's okay that you're not going to be a student of fucking stand-up comedy because you're busy being a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of stand-up comics say, hey, dude, I don't want to fucking go and watch anybody else's shit, old or new, because I don't want that in my head because I just want to focus on my stuff.
I'm the opposite of that. I have heard comics make that take, and I get that take, obviously, but I'm the opposite. I always want to be a fan of stand-up. I always want to keep watching my favorite comics and keep up with them and everything. And there is that weird hang-up of like, well, if you're admittedly watching everybody, then you have no deniability in saying like you copied some. You can't be worried about all the weird bullshit that comes with it, though. Like, I'm in comedy because I was a fan of it, so I'm going to keep being a fan of it, you know what I mean? And if there's a topic that I've already had it come up, like if Nate Bargatze comes up with a similar tag or whatever, is like, and I see that somebody else that's way more famous is using something that I had a premise on, comedy's big enough where I'm going to come up with more material, even though that was one of my favorite jokes. There's going to be more stuff to talk about where I don't think not that that's what you're saying either, but I don't think being a fan of comedy is going to inhibit you from coming up with stuff or it's going to hinder you in any way.
Well, that's not my take. It's just literally
right.
people have said that as comedians. They're like, I get what you're saying, Tom, but I don't want to be exposed to this on the off chance that it comes up in my material, because then it is authentically mine because I never saw anybody else's shit.
Right. But that doesn't even prevent it, because then still everybody else that saw it still thinks, you know what I'm saying?
Here's the thing. It's like, I'm the guy that walked out of a comedy club because I knew somebody was fucking mooching off of George Carlin's work from 25 years ago. Nobody else knew that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, again, to a large degree, when shit gets old enough, it gets recycled because nobody knows it existed.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah. Now, how the internet will dictate what the future looks like, I don't know, because, everything is becoming a digital archive and it's there forever.
Right.
And what that's going to change for copying someone's work in 20 years, I don't know. Who gives a shit about for 20 years from now? Let's worry about now. It's more fun to think about what's happening right now versus like 20 years from now.
Yeah.
But I like your take on it. It's like, hey, I can be, a fan of comedy and watch stand-up comedy, but not copy anybody's shit. And on the off chance that, hey, two people are doing the same joke, if one person is a massive comedian, I'll just drop mine because there's more comedy to be made.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a, what's the way they say it is like, there's plenty of fish in the sea.
Look
at it that way. Like there's a lot of jokes.
And that's going to happen either way. You're going to come across somebody that has the same premise as you, whether you're watching them or not,
So what's your process for like jokes? How does it come to you? How does it work for you? Like everybody has something that kind of like, it pops in their head, or they see something and start like having something work around it. Dave Chappelle is famous for getting to the punchline first and then working to the premise, which is crazy in and of itself, but cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. How does it work for you?
I've heard he wrote backwards like that for some stuff. For me, it's like always, if I do randomly think of something that I think is funny, or if something happens, then I jot it down as quick as I can on my phone. Like what I was talking about earlier. I try to keep the presence of mind to just get the idea down without trying to make it funny in the moment. Just get the idea down so I can go back to it later. But that's phone notes, and then I separate it. I got 3 versions of tracking jokes. I keep it on my phone, on a little notebook, and on a bigger notebook. So I always have my phone and a little notebook on me. The phone is for if I have an idea, I'll jot it down on my phone. The little notebook is for building set lists, like before I go up and stuff like that, just kind of organizing thoughts. And the bigger notebook at home is for expanding those thoughts.
Okay.
Like going back through the phone, really, and taking whatever idea I had and trying to expand on that. So I like that. I like that I'm doing that now, but that's maybe because I'm not as aware of organization, but that's taken me almost 3 years to come up with just like some kind of organizational thing to keep track of jokes and stuff. I've seen some dudes come up with like note cards and stuff like that, and that wasn't my thing.
Such a unique system. You're like, I've never heard of anybody use that kind of like 3-pronged approach to it. It's so cool.
Well, those are the 3. Yeah, it's very easy to divide for me. That I've noticed that. It wasn't like on purpose, but that's the easiest way for me to track And like I said, I'm scared of my notebook. I don't want to write down ideas because they feel too permanent. If I put it in my phone, I can backtrack on the idea or whatever, but hopefully I can just like stick to getting that original idea down. And then the little notebook, I rarely try to flush out actual jokes. And that big notebook is where I'm like laying on my stomach with my feet in the air like a little girl coloring, like trying to flush out jokes, you know what I mean? I'm trying to get everything out.
So, of that process, the stuff that gets to big notebook, how much of that actually gets to the stage? Or and how much of it kind of sits there and you're like, I still want to work things out before I try it out?
Because a lot of that is just one idea over and over again. Both notebooks are a lot of the same thing over and over. The little notebook with the set list, it's a lot of the same set list. Because if I'm doing it the next night, I'm writing things out, thinking of the way I'm going to say it as I'm writing it out. I don't know if any of this makes sense or if it even matters, but the big notebook, it'll be me writing almost an entire joke out and then me writing it out again with the little, I'll strike out a few words, see how it sounds like another thing, and then I'll rewrite the joke again. And that, you can tell from the beginning of the notebook when I started comedy, that was happening a whole lot more than what it's happening now. I can get it. I know my beats a little more, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You mentioned Jimmy Carr. Jimmy Carr has said before that he does comedy in the same frequency with like everything. And I don't know to what extent he means everything, but it sounds like a pretty big generalization. And I've noticed now I can write in the style that I talk. I know how I say my jokes now a little more. So I can write and know where my breakups are and stuff like that. And it'll be pretty line by line, maybe too scripted and stuff like that. That's the negative of what I'm doing right now. But also, like I said earlier, I don't think writing on stage is my thing. That seems like a BS thing I can't really grasp right now.
You keep coming back to that whole feeling like it's scripted.
Yeah, dude, because
it's like the fourth time you've mentioned it. I'm just like,
because a lot of people have complimented me since I started. A lot of people have complimented me, and most of it is saying that you're a good joke. They're like, dude, you're a really good joke writer. And I am confident that I can write a joke, but a lot of times in a stand-up show, people don't want joke by joke by joke. You know what I'm saying? The whole point of stand-up is make it seem conversational, like you're masking the point that it's jokes that are written.
It's not, though.
Not everybody likes the Mark Norman style, and he's like the end of the spectrum, and I think I'm on that too much. You know what I'm? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but if you're good at it, like he is.
Yes, but not everybody has perfected that style to the extent that he has.
I don't think it is not for. It's not for most comedians, but
maybe I'm just not funny, dude. No.
I don't think that style works for most comedians. I think today's comedians are more like storytellers that have, kind of like. The way you're explaining, it's not just like set up punchline. It's like we go through this flow, and it kind of like it's a journey almost, and it's a lot of funny in it, of course, but it's a coherent journey. I get what you're saying there, but like if you can do what he's doing, I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nobody does that.
I do. I love Mark Norman, but when I hear the criticisms of Mark Norman's style, I also totally understand those too. Like I've heard some comics say that his style gets a little boring and repetitive. I get how you could.
Are those comics selling out
beats.
arenas and theaters like he is all over the world?
Nope.
Then who gives a fuck what those comedians have to say? The audiences that. So here's the thing. Comedians also aren't always friendly to each other. A lot of them are, but a lot of them see it as competition too.
For sure.
So
and there's more to criticize.
The way I would look at it is like, okay, you can say his style of comedy, blah, 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 but like, does it translate to tons of audiences wanting to see him? Yeah, it does. And like, I've seen it firsthand. Like every single time he went up during Skankfest, it was to full rooms that really wanted to see him.
Yeah.
And it was like, that means something. You have 300 plus comedians during Skankfest, and like, there's 10 different rooms happening at the same time, but it's full every time he goes up.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that, because he's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
So who gives a shit what anybody else thinks? Like, if that's the end goal and you can get to something of that magnitude, then yeah, awesome. You're going to have other comedians talking shit about you. It should be that way.
I do try to keep it in my mind too. If you have 100 people in the audience, you don't want all 100 people to like you. That means you're a corny asshole or something. Like, that's weird if you have nobody hating you at the end of your set. You know what I mean? That might be an extreme way to think too, but I have to acknowledge that there's going to be people that really, really like me. My favorite comic's Louis. There's people that really love Louis. There's people that really hate Louis. I want some people to really love me, or I want some people to really hate me so that I have some people that really love me. You know what I mean? Eventually.
The fact that Louis C.K. can pull out a Bible and turn it into one of my favorite fucking stand-up comedy routines ever, it just speaks to how much I love that man as a comedian.
He's talking about the fig tree.
And I'm just like,
the time of figs is not yet.
Yeah, he's like, and David lived to be 800. I bet he did.
Yeah.
Fucking, dude, come on, dude. Like,
it is a good bit, yeah.
He's great. Like, yeah, dude, Louis sits on top of that hill. You know what I mean? Like, he's one of the fucking funniest guys in the world to me.
Yeah.
But I could also understand how so many people would be turned off by him.
Yeah,
and would hate his brand of comedy.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter. There's millions of us that love him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, same with Mark. Mm-hmm. There's millions of us that love him as a comedian.
There's also, and I'm talking about just my fucking problems this whole time, but I'm very self-conscious and stuff, but it's a bullshit. It is totally a bullshit thing because that's me portraying that, dude. And I know that, but it's one of those things that's just kind of hard to get over. You know what I mean? Just like I know I'm in my own lane, it's still kind of hard not to compare yourself to other comics. I know that I don't want everybody to like me. I know that there's going to be some things I say that are polarizing, but I still go into things wanting other people to like me too much, and I assume that the things I say will make them not like me when that's not the case. I did a joke. A lot of my family came out to the Improv and saw me for the first time about a month ago, and maybe a little longer. Anyways, the last time I was at the Improv, and I was doing jokes. I was like, maybe I'll clean it up since my family's going to be here.
Okay.
And I didn't do that. I was like, I'm going to do the jokes that I wanted to do for this set, and a few of them are family related. Some of them are dirtier than the stuff I want to do in front of my family, but they still went well, and my family still liked the jokes, even though one of them was like a dark, dirty joke about family. They still liked it. They still enjoyed the show and everything, and that's kind of tells me I'm portraying that on more than just my family, like thinking, oh, they won't like this. I'm thinking a lot of people won't like me or for whatever reason. That's just an internal bullshit thing. And if they don't, it shouldn't be something that's preventing me from being myself and speaking my mind. I don't know.
It's just being self-conscious. It's okay. I mean, like,
yeah.
You're going to go through it, you know, like, and you're just going to be like, oh, they're going to hate it, or that's going to, fine. At some point, all of those roadblocks that are self-imposed will be like, oh, well, wait, they didn't hate it?
Yeah.
Oh, and they liked it too? Mm-hmm. Oh, and I'm actually doing pretty well. And like, they kind of disappear, but that's fine. You're going to probably have to go through that shit at some point, right?
I'm sure it'll dissipate once I learn to like my own shit more, but I like comedy, so I know I'm not doing what I want to be doing yet. You know what I mean? So I'm good that I'm glad that I'm aware of that, at least, you know.
Fine. You know, self-awareness, like, that's a really important thing to have, that you're like, okay, I know where I want to be.
For sure.
And I can work on it.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we all kind of like strive for, is knowing what our flaws are and what our shortcomings are and trying to improve on it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think that's a good note to end on.
Yeah,
it was a pretty good one. Tell people where they can find you on social media and stuff.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, mostly Swindell, SWINDE11, spelled kind of weird, but on Instagram and Facebook. You can find me on there, Cody Swindell.
And check him out. He does open mics all over Dallas and maybe soon in Austin. I don't know.
Waco this weekend, Louisville next weekend.
All right, so next weekend probably, because this will come out next weekend. So catch him next weekend in Louisville. By the time you see this, he's already done 20 minutes in Waco, so he's probably going to be good and ready for the Louisville shows.
Yeah, nice.
Cody, thank you again. Really appreciate this conversation.
Thanks, Tom.
Hope to see you doing more, man.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on, man.
Thank you. Show.